Good evening, Littleton. Welcome to the Select Board meeting of December 5th, 2022. We are going to begin tonight's meeting with an executive session scheduled to run from 5:30 to 6:30. Mr. Clerk, if you would please read the motion.
Is that the motion? There we go. Move the Select Board vote to enter into executive session pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A2, to conduct strategy and preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel or to conduct collective bargaining sessions or contract negotiations with non-union personnel, to include the town administrator, the finance director, the police chief, the deputy police chief, the fire chief, and the deputy fire chief. And also per Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A2, police, fire, dispatch, and AFS CME union. Select Board will adjourn to executive session and will reconvene in open session after the executive session. Requires a roll call vote.
Second.
Motion made by Chuck, seconded by Gary. No, not Gary, seconded by Mark. Roll call vote, Mr. Rombacher?
Aye.
Mr. DeCoste?
Aye.
Mr. Wilson?
Aye.
Ms. Napoli?
Aye.
And the chair's in favor. Motion carries 5-0. We'll see you in an hour. Thank you. All right, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the open session for the Select Board meeting, December 5th, 2022. We will begin, as we usually do, with the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Clerk?
Sir.
Oh, careful. Yeah.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. All right, a quick recap of our agenda. Read the mail. Department board updates, Public Works. We're going to recognize a longtime employee. It's going to be a surprise. Our Director of Public Works is going to discuss the update on the snow plowing this year. We will read a side letter of agreement between the town and the firefighters union and discuss Parks and Rec program coordinator job descriptions. We will have the fiscal year 23 tax classification public hearing, which will be followed by public input and members' updates. Following that, a joint meeting with the Finance Committee and the School Committee on the town budget for FY24, and then a large number of alcoholic liquor license renewals, Select Board discussions including town administrator performance and goals, and discussion about creating a drone bylaw, and the TA update, funding options for the acquisition of 36 King Street, the timeline for a January special town meeting, contract process for MassWorks grantees, and a review of our schedule meeting for the next few months. Finally, we will approve the minutes of November 21st. Mr. Administrator, if you'd like to start with the mail.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, so we have, first item is we received a notice from Comcast talking about some price changes to the cable service. Next up, we have a nice letter thank you that we received from FIBA Technologies. It's actually been 10 years that they've been in Littleton. They wanted to thank the town and they retrofitted the 380,000 square feet of space of the former Sandville concrete facility. They are 100% occupied. They just want to thank the town for being so supportive of FIBA Technologies. It's nice that we received that letter. The next item is just an update on some board and committee openings. We had a resignation from Nick Pellegrino for the Transportation Advisory Committee. We've yet to have any applicants for the Open Space Committee. Jim Garrity has discussed the ZBA alternative. We'll be bringing that back to you in January. We have a bunch of other vacancies that we will need to come up with another posting and really try to get some of these committees filled because it does impact the quorum. So we really could use the public's help in filling some of these positions. They're all so important to the town and the direction that we move towards. And last, I received an email, and this was Liz had forwarded to me from a resident, and I'm just gonna read the transcript of what the voicemail was because it's really nice that our employees work really hard for the town, and to have a thank you and to be recognized, it's really nice to hear. It lets them know that their efforts don't go unnoticed. And to get that from a citizen is great. So if I may, good morning, Nicole. This is blank to protect the privacy. It's a Saturday morning. It's almost 7:45, and obviously, I know you're not there. I hope you have a blessed and wonderful Thanksgiving. I just wanted to call and thank you from the bottom of my heart for all you have done, from bringing in the salt in the pie, to making sure the tread had improved to $1,500. You don't know how grateful I am. I don't know what I would do without you and Amy being an important part of my life, and I'm thankful for both of us for being the kind and generous people that you are. So thank you again from the bottom of my heart, and I didn't bother. I'm going to call you on Monday because I know how crazy it's going to be. But again, thank you for being you and Amy again. Very important people in my life. I'm so appreciative of both of you, so thank you. You know, I've said it a number of times, and I know the board, you've said it on several occasions too. The work that EHS does, it's just not for us seniors. We have a lot of people in town that require the services. And, you know, in my over 20 years of municipal experience, I've never come across a department as committed to the work that EHS does. So I asked them to come tonight, and if they can, maybe Liz and, want to come forward, Liz and team?
Nicole and Amy and Sue.
Yay! Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, one of the things that's, you know, I've said many times that I'm constantly impressed with the range of services that you offer, but clearly this is also, you're making a personal connection with people, and that's lovely and so important, and I really appreciate you. Thanks
Thank you all.
Thank you.
very much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
It's nice.
Thank you, guys. And, Mr. Chair, that is it for the mail.
Okay, thank you. Next up, we have the DPW recognition of Jim DeVogel.
I'll kick this off. So, again, I think our longest serving town employee is going to call it a career. And Jim DeVogel, after 37 years of a commitment to the town, you know, he's just, it's amazing. When you talk to Jim and you talk about, you know, where a manhole cover might be or some marking, or, you know, he knows exactly where it is all over town. It's just amazing. And he'll jump on it. That institutional knowledge is going to be missed. And we wanted to recognize Jim and Steve Yonley's here. I don't know if, Steve, you want to come to the mic and say a few things too, but we wanted to recognize, and I know the board likes to make sure that you recognize the employees on special occasions like this. And unfortunately, it's one that wish wasn't happening, but we all deserve to go into the sunset and enjoy some quality life after municipal life.
Yeah, Steve Yonley, Director of Public Works. Obviously, from the DPW and highway standpoint, we thank Jim for all his service to the town. As most of you know, I've lived in town here for more than 20 years, and always knowing Jim and Jimmy Clyde, it was always, you know, they're always very responsive. To me, he's been great over the little bit less than a year I've been here. Ask him a question, like Anthony said, he knows, you know, where stuff is in this building, in our building, and around town. So again, the long-time employees like that are valued to the community.
Thank you. All right. We have this plaque in recognition of your service to Littleton, July 5th, 1983 through 87 seasonal. From 87 to 2023 full-time. Thank you for your loyal and dedicated service to the Department of Public Works. Congratulations and happy retirement. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Just one more season.
Thank you.
Thank you. If you want to say a few words, it's up to you.
All I can say is over my 37 years again, being a resident growing up in town, I started right out of high school. I've met and made a lot of friends over my 37 years, and I still see a lot of them, talk to everyone. I've always been open, and hopefully address one thing Anthony said a little while ago. Once I get my next stage of my life in place, I'll probably be looking to probably sit on one of the boards or committees. So,
Excellent.
but thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Sandy? All right, Steve, you're up again.
37 years.
Thank you again.
Yes.
Again, Steve Yonley, Public Works Director. Here tonight just to kind of update the board and the community on kind of where we stand coming into the snow and ice season for this upcoming winter that should be here anytime soon, but at least this week we look okay. A little bit of an update contractor-wise. Last year, the town had 18 hired vehicles and pieces of equipment. This year, right now, we have committed 8. I've spoken to somebody, local contractor, they've committed, at least verbally, 3 more pieces. That takes us to 11. So right there, we're down 7 pieces of equipment on the road. In the past, the town has had 20 to 25 on any given year. The further you go back, the more you get. If you remember, a couple months ago, I was here when we put kind of the snowplow applications out. I mentioned the fact that we went up $5 an hour across the board on the rate. Last few weeks, we did kind of a, I don't know, semi-official call other communities, see what they're doing. Looked at our rates. Anthony, Ryan, and I had a discussion about it. Went up another $5 across the board. Brought us kind of still a little low in some areas, a little high in areas, but average it out. We're pretty good. We're pretty competitive. That's when we got the verbal commitment for the other 3 pieces of equipment. So we're still reaching out, following up with people that said they're thinking about it. We lost some to other communities. We gained some from communities. It just kind of is what it is at this point. Employee-wise, obviously, you just saw Jim retiring. I still have 2 open positions, so at the end of the month, I'm going to have 3 open positions. So that's internally 3 pieces that we're going to be down. Going to be making an offer to a entry-level position next couple of days. Hopefully, he's in by the end of the month. We get that person trained up and get him out on the road. So all in all, what this brings us is I'm going to probably end up having some delays in time. You know, plow routes, you want to try to get them 2 hours, 2.5 hours. Now we're looking at probably around 3 hours, because routes I might have 3 pieces of equipment in, now I only have 2. Or maybe that route had to grow a little bit as we combine to try to, you know, stretch our assets, basically. So with that, you know, it has a kind of a snowball effect to, you know, be kind of funny. But, you know, on our end, the guys that are plowing and, you know, putting out the icing materials are the same guys after the storm that are cleaning the parking lots and snow blowing the sidewalks. So all that has a ripple effect. If it takes us a couple hours longer during a storm, 6-8 inch snowstorm, it's going to take us a little bit longer, and we're going to have to reprioritize some of the sidewalks that we do. You know, I'm going to do school routes and business routes first before getting into the way outlying areas. You know, it's just what we're going to have to do. And you see, kind of my final thing, we're committed to this year. We're committed to what we're doing. We've been through the private street stuff, and, you know, we're committed to doing all these sidewalks. I think in the future, if this continues to trend like this, and we're not the only community. Trust me, I've talked to other communities, community I used to work in, other neighboring communities around here. Everybody's down 20 to 30% on hireds, and every community has open positions. So we're all kind of poaching from each other for the open positions. But as we go forward, looking into almost next year already, maybe we have to have the discussion about, I hate to say it, but the private streets. You know, as I say in my memo, we do about roughly 4 miles Obviously, we dropped one the last couple of years with that as a potential to come back. You know, that in itself is almost a route by itself. And then some of the sidewalk stuff, do we really need to be going into these outlying neighborhoods that don't connect to anything? You know, Whitetail, up Gristmill, I know they're big neighborhoods, they have a sidewalk but doesn't go anywhere. Why are we then putting assets into those neighborhoods days after the storm for what? So it's, again, committed to doing it this year, but it's something that I think we need to at least have the initial discussion and consider in the future. So, again, just wanted to update the board and the community, kind of where we stand, and that, you know, we're still gonna be out there, we're still gonna, you know, it falls out of the sky, we push it off the street. It just might take a little bit longer.
Thank you.
If I may add.
Yes.
You know, and Steve brought this to my attention, we wanted to bring it to your attention, we wanted to bring it to the public's attention, because you know, we've already had a conversation with Superintendent Clenchey to let him know, because we're gonna face some challenges, and like Steve said, we're not gonna be alone in these challenges. We may be seeing more snow on the ground than you're used to seeing. You know, Littleton always takes pride in seeing that black pavement when it snows, and we've really been doing an excellent job, but they're gonna be under tremendous stress, and these guys and girls have to get some rest too while they're plowing. I told Steve he's gonna have to train Brian and I, and we'll have to be jumping in plows ourselves to help out, or whatever it's gonna take, but, you know, in all reality, it's, hopefully we don't have a lot of snow, but it's gonna be a challenging year. We just ask for the public's patience as we get through this year.
Thank you. Any other comments from the board?
Can I ask how many pieces of equipment you put out, the town equipment? You said you're down basically 50% on your contractors.
So, when we go out internally at Highway, between Highway and Parks, there's 11 positions. With Jimmy retiring, I'm down 3, so I have 8. So I'm gonna be out with 8 guys, plus Steve, if he's still sitting there, you know, and if I'm here, I plowed snow since I've been driving, so I have no problem hopping in a truck, you know, during the day. Again, the hope is I can fill our internal positions, maybe with the up in the rates, and we keep talking to people. People tend to trickle in late, you know, it could be a vehicle that's off the road, they're waiting for winter to register it and all that stuff. Some people have a hard time finding drivers, so, you know, hopefully some of that shakes out soon.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a question, Steve. So, talking about some of the outlying sidewalk areas, and having lived in the city in the past, there's ordinances in place that you have 48 hours to get your sidewalk cleared in front of your house. If we're thinking about kind of pulling back on that, it might be something that this body would have to look at putting some sort of bylaw proposal out there, I would imagine, right?
Or a policy, it could be, I think it falls right now under a policy, under the select board's policies.
Okay.
But you're right,
So-
Chuck, and that's why we wanted to bring this attention, because that's a discussion that you're gonna wanna have, the public the transparency with the public to let them know that these are some of the decisions that you may be faced with the board down the road.
That's why I just wanted to bring it up now, so that, for exactly that reason, just to say that
Yeah,
there is the
so-
possibility that if we can't get to these, if we have to eliminate something, that's what's going to be eliminated, and we could make some changes, and the onus would be then on residents to take care of whatever is in front of their property.
Right, and like Steve said, we're committed this year to
Yeah.
doing everything that we possibly can do to hit all the streets, the private ways that were accepted by the board, and all the sidewalks, but certainly if this trend continues, you have some decisions to make next year.
Thank you. Anyone else? Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Steve.
Steve. Thanks, Steve.
All right. Chief Connor.
Yes, sir.
You think you're up? Side letter of agreement.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We met last week in executive session to discuss this. This is some language changes for changes in hours for day positions. It's meant to optimize the day positions that we have, hopefully alleviate some overtime, and just create a little bit more flexibility as the department grows so that we can meet the needs as they come about.
Okay, thank you. Comments from the board or questions? I think we all agree this is ready to go. Okay, Mr. Clerk?
It's up there too, Chuck.
Move the Select Board vote to approve the side letter of agreement between the Town of Littleton and the Littleton Professional Firefighters Association, International Association of Firefighters, Local 4599, dated November 29th, 2022.
Second.
Motion made by Chuck, seconded by Cindy. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chief.
All right. Alicia, Park, yes, it's up. You're up. Okay. Just me?
All right. Oh.
Good evening. Hi.
Hey,
Go ahead.
hello.
Hello.
Good evening. Thank you so much for your time this evening. I appreciate it. So tonight, I'd like to address 3 requests proposed in my memo that I sent to the Select Board. So the first on the docket is regarding the program coordinator job description. It was originally graded as a 10 when we went through this process for the class and compensation project. I didn't feel that the job description that was pretty dated did not do a good job of representing the weight of the responsibilities, staff and participant supervision, or risk management of the program coordinator position. So I updated it, and it was reviewed and regraded by Steve Venuti, Gary Wilson, Bill Schmidt, and they have regraded this as a grade 11. So the first thing that I had come to this evening was to request for the approval of that grade increase.
Okay. Mr. Wilson, you want to comment on this one, since you're most
Yeah,
closely involved, I guess?
we knew a few of these would happen once we changed the grid a little bit, and the recognizing you guys coming out of an enterprise, a lot of your positions, we didn't even know
Yeah.
what they were. So thank you for the position description. I think understanding now that those positions actually supervise the positions that were graded the same, so it made sense, and it definitely showed in the grading that it was graded higher than that position. So
Okay.
I think that we just got to continue to depend on you guys, managers, to come forward with these, so we know.
Absolutely.
Anyone else on the board have comments on this one? Okay. Let's do the vote. The motion is for all 3?
Correct.
No,
Should we-
you can
wanna do
take
one
one
at a time?
You can take them on,
Okay.
it's a separate issue.
Okay, let's go ahead and vote on this.
Okay,
Or
sorry,
do you
Mr.
want to
Chair.
comment?
I had a question.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
So as far as the job description goes, is this is a revised job description that's in the packet?
That's correct.
Do we
yes.
have do we know what the changes were?
I can send you, I had originally given the edited version to Gary, Steve, and Bill, but if that's something that you're interested in, I'd
Yeah,
happily
just
get
out
that
of
to you.
curiosity, just to see what
Okay.
was omitted and what was
Sure.
added in.
Yeah.
I think would be appreciated. And so then the grading, changing the grade to a grade 11, step 3, effective, what was it graded previously?
Oh, no, so
That's what I'm-
this is specific to the overall grade of the coordinator position.
Okay.
It was graded in the new grid, it graded as a 10 with, I can't think of the position that they supervise, what's it?
It was a teen program lead
Yeah,
position.
teen program lead, and the coordinators were graded at grade 10.
They were
When the
graded
positions were
similar.
uniquely different, quite different.
Okay.
With the coordinator positions actually being having more responsibility and also supervisory control of those other positions.
Right.
So
Okay,
when that was all taken into account of grading it, they definitely graded out higher.
okay, all right, thank you.
Okay. Are you ready to vote on this, Cindy?
I'm kind of, I don't have to push, but I would like to see the change in the job description personally. I mean, whatever the favor of the board is, to be honest with you. I don't know if you're.
I mean, I guess I would sort of rely on the expertise of the Personnel Advisory Board.
Yeah, right.
Because I believe that they have done all the grading on all of these positions,
Okay.
and I haven't, followed the minutia of any of them, so
Yeah.
I'm fine with saying, if they say it's an 11, it's an 11.
Okay,
I'm cool with that. Okay.
that's fine.
All right. We good? Okay. Mr. Clerk?
Is any grade?
Move the Select Board vote to approve the following. Update to PRC Program Coordinator job description as included in the packet.
Second.
Motion made by Chuck, seconded by Mark. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion
Aye.
carries 5-0. Okay.
All right, you're going through these.
Number
Excellent.
dose.
Nice. So the second request that I have is I'm asking for approval for John Kazanjian to be increased to a grade, since it would now be 11, a step 3, starting at 31, starting on January 1st, which is when all of these take in effect. So for anyone that doesn't know Kaz, who is here tonight, he is, to the kids, the unofficial mayor of Littleton, because he does run Camp T. So he started at PRCE in 2017, actually yesterday. Do you know that? There you go. So though he had to leave the department for a short period of time to take care of some personal business, he came back to us in March 2020. So for the past 4.5 years, Kaz has provided the community with unparalleled opportunities for enriching the community building. He's been able to just do amazing things with his programs, I should say. For Ski Club, it's something that we did originally when I first started here 8 years ago, and we couldn't run the program at all. It zeroed out every single year. And the first year that he was back here, or started working with us, he brought life to it. So currently this year, we have 62 kids that are going to Neshoba on Tuesday, and 48 kids and teens that are going to Wachusett on Wednesdays. He's increased the overall participation in adult sports, added successful programs like cornhole, pickleball, and co-ed flag football. And lastly, this past year, Camp T had a 66% increase in participation this past summer, and we were sold out 5 of the 7 weeks. A lot of this is definitely the direct responsibility of John Kazanjian. And as part of that, I would like to be able to appreciate the time that he has been here for the past 4.5 years and the dedication that he's had to this department and to the town of Littleton. So for that, I'd like to request this grade increase to recognize Kaz for the amazing job he's done with his programs, for his exemplary customer service, and for always going above and beyond in everything that he has done for the town and for the Department of Littleton Parks and Recreation for the past 4.5 years.
Thank you. Mr. Wilson, I know we were discussing this earlier, and you had an explanation of how this came to be, how the grade happened.
Yeah, well, I mean, the original personnel bylaws, well, this grade actually came to be because the grid changed.
Yeah.
Correct, so these positions all were moved from, in the old grade 9, I believe.
Yes.
So they went up to grade 11, the coordinator positions. And when that happened, the current coordinators that were there, and John being one of them, moved back to where their grade lined up.
Step
back to step 1. So, and historically, the personnel board, when it was in existence, could grade those positions from, when they come on from 1 to 3, they could come in steps 1 to 3. When the personnel board went away, that went away with that authority. So now everything comes to the select board, and we have to make determinations. Now, what makes this a little unique is this is an existing employee. It's not a new employee that's coming to us.
Right.
So it is unique in that sense. It's not someone that we just hired that we're trying to figure out what the experience level is and things like that.
So I guess to that point, you mentioned that John is more experienced than Brent. So, but my understanding would be they were both moved to the same step because their salary was the same before the grid changed.
No, that's not correct.
Okay.
So the jump, because John has been here longer, he was making more, but because the grade has shifted, they both go back and start at a 1. So
Okay.
Brent would have a larger increase, whereas John would have a smaller one.
Okay, so that's what happened when
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
And what step were you at before the move? Do you know? Okay.
3, yeah.
All right.
3 or 5.
All right.
It was going 1 to 3, I think it was 5 and 8 was the old grade. It was grade 8, step 5, and then it was going to go to 3, the new, when we went to grade 10 in the new configuration. And then, you know, so when the move got made to go back to 1, it was like, not very helpful.
Got it.
You know what I mean?
Okay.
But that's where I was before.
Other board comments? Mr. Rumbacher?
Should she explain the next one too? And
Yeah, let's talk about this one.
Three separate
Yeah,
ones.
let's talk about this one first.
So the one piece that I will add that I didn't mention thus far is that the wages do come out of our revolving fund. So the fees from our programs are what pay his wages. So that financially is something that would not come out of the general fund.
Thank you.
Which separates it from the next one.
Understood, yeah, that makes sense, yeah. Mr. Rumbacher, do you have
So
comments?
I'm just going to say that I'm not really comfortable with moving people between steps out of cycle. It just doesn't seem like something that we should be doing. I think John and Tim are both valuable employees, and I'd like to find a way to reward them. I'd much rather see us come up with a way we can give them bonuses than to do steps this way. It just, all of the employees are going to can feel that they've been slighted when they've been moved between the old grid and the new grid. And to pick 2 out of all of the employees that we say should be moved between steps just doesn't feel right to me. That I think they're both valuable employees and doing a great job. I think we need to come up with another way of rewarding them other than moving them steps.
Mr. DeCoste?
Yeah, so I don't disagree with the basic premise of Mr. Rambacher in that I've historically been against off-cycle movements within a grid, but in this case, to Alicia's last point, this is from the enterprise fund. This is not something that we are facing some significant budget deficit right now, and it's going to be challenging to do any kind of additions to our budget. But in this case, the facts kind of present themselves pretty easily to justify this. I mean, in a corporate world, if John were increasing revenue by 66%, he'd be rewarded for it. I understand that he's in a municipal job, and that's something he's chosen to do. I'm supportive of this, of taking them one by one. I'm supportive of the change that we just made, and I'm supportive of sliding John into the step 3 at the
New grade.
the new grade, the new wage,
So,
and create some differentiation between Brent and John.
Okay.
Because that was there before.
Correct.
And it's again, not going to have an impact on the general fund.
so I also agree with Mark that I'm very hesitant to make changes in mid-cycle, but it does feel like if the program coordinator is a grade 11, someone with one year of experience should be a grade 1, and someone with 4 years of experience should be a grade 4 or 3. So, they should be a little bit higher. So I'm okay with making this change.
I have a question. Sure. So, kind of go back to my personnel board days. So if this employee, if John came before you today as a new employee versus what you currently have as a coordinator position, would you be asking us to bring him in at a higher grade, knowing with his experience that he has now?
Yeah, he has been an absolute, I can't even describe it. What he provides to our department is something that no one else has.
In the community. not
In
just
the community,
department.
he is a very renowned member of the community. He's very much involved, and that's not something that you find. That's a very big rarity. So for that alone, yes, absolutely.
But can I just to rephrase what Gary asked? If someone came in with the experience that John has, off the street, with 3 or 4 years experience, would you come in at this step? Not John, just, Joe off the street. Where would you start?
So at that point in time, yes, to be competitive in the field now, absolutely, because If you bring somebody in at a 1, that's, we're going with the idea that we're going to really have to train that person. There's a lot of work that's going to be involved with that individual. With someone that has the amount of knowledge and experience that he has, that would be, we would, within, as Gary had mentioned before, we have a leeway of between 1 to 3. So someone with that type of experience, yes, I would bring it at a 3.
Ms. Napoli, do you have any comments?
I don't, thank you.
So are we ready to vote on this number, on the second one? Okay.
Move the select board vote to approve the following. Adjust PRC program coordinator John Gazanian classification to grade 11, step 3, effective January 1st, 2023.
Second?
Motion made by Chuck, seconded by Cindy. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Aye.
All right, ayes have it.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I would say, I just wanted to add, this is, it's tough, going through the compensation study that we
Right.
went through, because this is something I thought we'd absolutely get away from. I'm not gonna lie, because when you create a new grid and we stretch it out, we did that, we put us into the 75th percentile
Yeah?
of towns of like size and salary. So this is, to me, and I had mentioned it before, I think it's a failure on our town and our board, if you will, not to have some type of a reward or awards program that we can compensate
Yeah.
high-functioning individuals that go above and beyond on a quarterly basis, a yearly basis, through stipends. And that's something that I'm committed to doing, and I'm currently working to have done, and this board I know is committed to doing it. So I just want to make sure that that's out there, that this isn't something, when I saw this done in the past, where we would move people steps as a way of, thank you for, you're doing an extra good work.
Right.
It's not sustainable.
Right.
It's not, so, that's the, is that my cue? So,
That's the hook.
I did want to say that. A lot of work goes into these compensation studies. And when we have these employees that are going obviously above and beyond, we need to recognize them. And that's going to have to be through a cash award program, time off programs, and some type of stipends if they've taken on work that really isn't falling. So,
Yeah, that would be excellent.
Let's move on to the third one.
Okay, so the last one, so Tim Mahowski has been, I guess I can say, specifically recruited for a position in another town. And so my request is that we would increase him to a grade 13, step 5, and this would provide a competitive rate to keep him here in Littleton. Losing Tim would be detrimental to the operations of this department in many ways, most specifically in the areas of aquatics and special events. Those are the special areas that we specifically brought him in for. It's extremely difficult to find someone with the ability to manage and operate a pool and train all of the summer seasonal staff, let alone a waterfront, which requires even more experience and training due to the increased liability with dark water. Tim is certified as a Red Cross instructor and has trained the seasonal staff for our seasonal staff with CPR, AED, and first aid, and the lifeguards in-house every year, saving the department approximately $14,000 in training that would need to be outsourced. There's an extra bonus to having your Red Cross trainer at your call every single moment of the day as well. So our staff is extremely knowledgeable and dedicated to the job of being a lifeguard. So in the decade where waterfronts nationally have been shutting down due to the lack of staffing, Tim has single-handedly been able to prevent that from happening here in Littleton due to his ability to create a culture of safety and quick decision-making where our lifeguards feel confident, competent, and supported by him. He has truly been able to build community with his special events. He was able to massively revive our winter festival, Fire and Ice, started our annual Oktoberfest, and has overall increased the number of event attendees by 500%. So when I first started, we were around 500 participants, and now we're well over 3,000. In 2021, he obtained his Certified Park and Recreation Professional Certification from the National Recreation and Parks Association. This is a huge title to achieve in our field. It takes months of study to pass this national examination to be given the CPRP title. Also, this summer, he completed the NRPA Director's School, which is a 2-year national program. Tim brings an immense amount of experience, innovation, and excitement to our operations, facilities, and staff. He is irreplaceable to the town of Littleton and to the PRCE department. I do hope that you will approve this increase to provide him a competitive offer to keep him here in Littleton.
What is his current grade in STEP?
So his current grade in STEP is, I'm trying to think of the old version of it.
What was he, where was he put on the new grid, I
So-
guess is what I'm saying.
The
What
new-
increase are you asking for?
On January 1st, where was he going to land?
On January 1st, he was going to be a 13-1.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
That-
Anyone want to begin?
I have a couple questions.
Yeah, sure.
So Alicia, who paid for the schooling? Did the town compensate Tim for that?
We do have some money set aside for training.
Yeah.
Plus, we're able to get grant money to be able to pay for some of those trainings
Okay,
as
so you didn't
well.
have to pay for that out of pocket? Perfect. All right, good.
I did mine
I was
out of
just
pocket.
curious. Oh, you
But yeah,
did?
we wanted to support Tim.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that he didn't pay for that out of pocket. I appreciate that. And then as far as the CPR training, like, that's really huge.
It's huge.
So I'm just thinking though, time-wise, like, how much time does it take him to do that training?
You mean for him to actually
I mean,
do
with everything
the-
else that Tim has going on
I
a
know.
daily basis at that
Yeah.
time of year, just to try to get everybody trained and up to par, for the beach season.
Yeah.
How many hours does that usually take him?
I mean, how many hours off the top of your head would you say? He's like at
last
it
year,
for the
I mean,
entire month of May.
With adding the training, Kaz and I worked from May 1st till June 12th without a day off. We had it all done.
Yep.
Yeah, so which I appreciate that, both of you, Kaz, but that just seems to me so overwhelming for them as employees to be working that much. I mean, will we be better off outsourcing that? I know it saves the town $14,000, but it puts a lot of burden on them personally.
Right. No, I hear you on that.
This is just for conversation's sake.
Sure, yeah. Go ahead, if you
If I
want,
may,
you want to come up?
Through the chair. No,
Okay.
to answer your question, one of the things that we've been dealing with even pre-corona, come up in.
Come on.
Yeah, stand behind this so we don't have to see those pants.
Oh, shock.
I'm just embarrassed because I'm wearing the same ones. So I can't stand up.
To kind of answer that question, having the ability for us to train our staff is one of the things that gets us our staff coming back, and it helps us to kind of retain people. We've had a national lifeguard shortage that's gone on since pre-COVID, and we hear all about it on the news, everything else. One of the things that it gives us the ability to do is to train all of those staff that fits in our timeline. We can get everybody in at the same time. But it also, we don't have to go find somebody. So for instance, the one thing we do outsource is our WSI, which is our swim instructors, which we've kind of phased out. That is one certification that I don't have. But to find somebody to teach that class is nearly impossible.
Okay.
For us to do. To find open lifeguard classes. Last year, I actually traded pool time with Lexington. I went and trained all their lifeguards so that they could have lifeguards for the summer in trade for our lifeguards to have pool time to teach the class. So
Oh, wow.
it is quite difficult to find somebody, especially the fact that we're training anywhere between 70 and 80 people for this seasonal position. We're recertifying them every other year.
Right.
And then, the things that come on top of that for because we are a licensed camp, our Red Cross certifications require that every single one of our staff gets 4 hours of in-service. So we do 2-hour blocks with the staff after. We either do it in the mornings or in the afternoons where we, do all the training, and every single month they get 4 hours of everything that they were certified in to make sure that they could actually respond to emergency, and they, didn't get trained 2 years ago and forget how to do it.
Right. Okay.
So yes, you would still need somebody who would be able to teach those classes monthly to make sure that we're maintaining our certifications properly.
Right. No, and I understand that. I'm just thinking about you personally, that's a lot, and I appreciate you taking that extra time and effort to do that. So I wanted to just raise that. Thank you for the explanation, I appreciate it.
Yeah, I have a passion for it too, and I enjoy doing it. And you know, I've been doing it for almost 20 years now. And for me, sometimes, especially, you know, and I think Kaz has seen it as we've done. You know, we've gotten the staff to a high performing level that is really hard to find. Also, so there's a certain level of pride in that, and we also know the product that we're getting. We do get people who transfer in whose skills are nowhere near the capabilities of what our staff here and how well that they're trained. And it does take a long time to get somebody to that position, but you know, in teaching the classes the way that we do, it really helps us keep that caliber that we really want,
Right.
especially when we're dealing with the kids.
Right, great, thank you.
Yep.
So I want to, you know, I've worked with you a little bit, Tim, like, you know, on the orchard stuff, I have to echo what other people said. You're clearly like super high functioning, you're incredibly pleasant to be around, you step up and do anything. So I want to separate out like my personal admiration for you, seriously, from like the process of changing and giving people bumps in the middle of a cycle, which I think to Mark's point, and I think to Gary as well, it's like it's a little bit opening a Pandora's box, and I'm not sure where that will end. So I have absolutely no problem in you know, giving you compensation for the work that you do in the manner that you do it and making sure that you're well compensated. I just don't know that changing the step is the right way to do it. So my opinion would be, it sounds like there's a bunch of things that you bring to this job which are not in the job description. All of your certifications and things that you've done recently and all of the water activities are very significant, and I'm wondering if we can't find a way to, I don't know, but this would be more of a personnel.
Well,
Board
CPRP, the
question.
CPRP is a requirement of that position.
Okay,
So they have to be, within the first year,
Okay.
they have to be CPRP qualified. But it's the other stuff.
but is that a new requirement?
It is.
Well, it's in the position description.
Yeah.
But is that is that new in the position
I don't,
description?
I can't recall if that was
Yes, that was not
it.
the original,
Yeah.
so that is a new thing.
Okay,
Yeah, so when, you know, in going through all of this as well, on the new grid where I fell, my job description hasn't been redone since prior to me accepting the position here 5 years ago.
okay,
Going on 6 now. So it was never rewritten in that whole process, you know, as well as some of the stuff that we've added just by attrition because we've been short-staffed and things like that, where, you know, it's just been things I've kind of absorbed into the process. You know, the one thing that I will say is, you know, I was waiting to see where we kind of landed with the compensation study. Alicia and I have what I would consider to be a fairly small gap right now. Under the new grid, there's a $12,000 gap between us.
okay. So I'm wondering if maybe the job description is where this is falling apart a little bit, and maybe that would be a way to address the situation that's not just, you know, it sounds stupid to say it, rewarding you for a job well done. Like, everybody should do a good job, but it sounds like what you're getting is not matching what you're doing, if that makes sense. Do you want to chime in, Chuck or Mark?
I will stand what I said before, is I don't like doing these out of cycle. I think you should be paid and rewarded for all the things you do. I would much rather see that we put in a stipend for you doing the lifeguard training or something else rather than moving the steps. I fully support where you should be for this, for the overall compensation. I just don't think this is the approach we should take to get there. I think you're an incredibly valuable employee, and I don't want to lose you, and I want to see what we can do to make you whole, but I don't think this is the approach we should be taking. That's...
Mr. Coates?
I'm going to just throw this out there because it is public record. Anthony or Alicia, anybody can chime in if they know the answer. What is the delta between a 13.1 and a 13.5? So if on January 1,
Right.
the new grid drops and you're at 13.1, the ask here is 13.5. Do we know what the delta is?
It's around $4,000.
Okay. So, and is that, you consider that to be fair and that would close the gap that you just mentioned about you and Alicia, and that would be something that would ensure us that you would be here
Yeah. and,
doing the
you know,
same job and, I mean,
Yeah, in my conversation I had with Anthony, it was, trying to get to that point of, closing that gap a little bit, obviously understanding the process, getting the job description rewritten, getting it to Steve and Gary and Bill and, going through that piece as well. This is just one of those things that I wanted to have the conversation about it and be, honest with what my expectation was, because, it has been, okay, well, we're going to do this, we're going to get here. And, specifically for me, seeing where I landed on that grid compared to other people within the organization across the board, especially with the demands of my particular job compared to other assistants and stuff structured against, how many staff they oversee and things of that nature. On top of that, that was something that I just wanted to, bring forward. And like I said, there's a significant discount. There's a significant gap on the new grid between, the assistant and the director position that doesn't exist right now.
Alicia, when you brought this in, was it your intention that this change would be associated with a change in the job description?
So ultimately, yes, I do want to do the increase or the update with the job description. The timing of it is not the greatest because, Tim's been given this offer, so this was something that we could do now, knowing that we would move forward and fix the job description in future,
Okay.
near future.
Did you have more to add?
I do. I think there's above and beyond the job description, if we came to the conclusion that $4,000 gap, whether we call it 4 additional steps, or we figure out how to get that $4,000 and maybe more. I don't want to spend the town's money willy-nilly, but frankly, I think there's justification for something else. And we've talked about some other opportunities with other positions that you kind of do that role right now and are not compensated for, frankly. So I think that being under the gun is tough. Having a budget shortfall is tough. Trying to find someone to replace you is going to be tougher. If you want to speak.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, when I brought this to Alicia and Anthony and to Ryan, that's, my intention is not to put anybody under the gun. Just to make a fair decision and just say, okay, this is opportunity that I have. But in the same respect, I was very clear to Anthony and Ryan, like, I'm fine with whatever the process needs to be to get there. I have no issue with that. But I just wanted to make sure that we're going to get there.
Assurances.
Got it.
That's really, and I'm fine if this is something that, we rewrite the job description, and I mentioned this to Anthony, and get there. Because ideally, if, January 1st, I could get to the number that was proposed tonight, that would be great. And I had even made mention that, when looking at this and looking at where Alicia and I have lined up in the past, if my job description was regraded and it came out somewhere to like the 15-1 position, that gives me then the longevity, because I don't want to go anywhere. I enjoy it here. It's an easy commute for the most part, with the exception of May through August. It's like we have a great time, but and we have a great time in May through August. It's just grueling. But being salaried, especially for those times, that's something that takes a significant hit. So that's just all of those factors combined into it. Really, this was just the discussion of, can we get there, or is it time to figure something else out?
Okay.
So if we gave you assurances, or if we came to a consensus that we think, or we will get to that point, and again, I'm going to say it out loud, potentially more than that, $4,000, whatever that 13.1 to 13.5 would be. How do we keep you in the pool?
Like I said, I've been here for 5 years. I love what I do. I love our team that we've built. I enjoy working with all of you guys. I was super happy when Anthony came back and, took the position back on, and, that was one of the reasons, before that I did. But now it's like, okay, this is there are opportunities, and, I have kind of pushed some things to the wayside because of that, and I've been doing that. It's just, I just want to make sure that that's there. And when the new grid came out, that was the biggest kind of, okay, well, these are the justifications of the why, and is there a way to get there?
Alicia, do you have a comment?
Yeah, just because you asked me, is he a 3 or is he a 1?
He would come in as a 3.
It is, yeah, okay.
I just wanted clarification of where he was at because your honorable body asked me how much. And when I'm looking at a 1 to a 5, that's about almost $8,000. So what I'm trying to figure out is where is he currently and where is he trying to go so I can give you an accurate number.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll
Yeah.
add, so,
I'm gonna rate it there.
when we, just from the cold classification hat, right? Unfortunately, we're not looking at an individual and what he brings to the job.
So that's 8, or
You know
4,
what,
sorry.
John's
Yep.
situation's a little bit different because we moved people up and they were identical positions that worked here already that came into the job and we needed to adjust it. This is a little different for me.
No, thank you. I appreciate
I
that.
feel that it's compensated correctly on the grid, the way that this position description is written.
But it sounds like the description is not accurate as far as
I
what he's
can't
doing.
speak to it. I can only speak to, the fact that, and when we talk about, yes, we will never, ever chase the rabbit down that's running to towns that are bigger than us, or that, for whatever reason, they're dumping a ton more money on certain jobs than others, and it's an endless battle.
And we've
I know
never won
we've thrown money over the last, this prior board, but
You don't have to point at me, Wilson.
we've thrown money at positions to, use steps as that piece to do it, to keep people that were being recruited constantly away. And the end result, I can think of 3 off the top of my head, they left anyway. So the endless chase for the money thing is not always beneficial to the town or keeping the employees. So I'm cognizant of that. And this one is a little bit different than me. I know the work that he does. And that's why I have to take out that part of this one is when we were looking at the two differences in the two jobs and just speak directly to this position description graded out here and that the salary that Tim was currently making moved into this grid and slid below 13, so we had to move it up to 13.1 because the salary grid changed, obviously, and that happened to a lot of positions. But if we sit back and look at this, are we being competitive? Can he be a park and rec director? Absolutely. And probably if he stays here long enough, he'll be recruited. Either you'll leave or go somewhere else and you'll retire and he'll take your job, or he'll go to another community and be the park and recreation director. You're that good, and I know you're passionate about it. So these are the two things we're sitting here juggling, but all I can do coldly is look at this. It was graded. This is where the position lies. And like I said before, we have to get out of the business of using steps as bonuses or incentive when we need to create a awards program to keep to everything, stipends that you do that an average employee in that position doesn't do. We can't compare that position to this position and this position, or it's an endless.
Yeah, I think we all agree. I think
Right.
we all agree on that.
I do more than you do more than this. I do
Yeah.
more, and,
Okay.
So, can I just chime in?
it's a lot of talk, I know.
I think a better approach to this is, I haven't read the job description currently, but I know you're going above and beyond the job description, but I don't necessarily think that means that the job description should be rewritten to do what you do, because then you become irreplaceable, right? But the things that you're doing above and beyond, like, I'll just say like the lifeguard training and the CPR training, we should come up with stipends for doing that, to reward you to get where you are. And then if you were to leave, someone else could potentially take over that if they have the proper training, right? So I want to see you get where you should be. I just rather it not be through the steps, right? And then we can figure out how the stipends are funded, whether it's through the revolving fund or the other budget. But does that make sense?
I don't think it's as pure as that. I think it's
Yeah.
it may end up somewhere in between there. And I
Yeah,
think that
that's true,
if
too.
you're willing to allow us to get to a point that we can at least say, this is where we can get to, so that you can make a decision that's right for you and right for your family. I think that if you can allow us, I mean, you've got a deadline, I'm sure. We need to know what that deadline is, frankly, and we need to, if the rest of the board is willing to, we need to have this conversation, to take into consideration what
Yeah.
Mark has said, to take into consideration whether it's a stipend or other responsibilities that we need to either include in the job description or not include in the job description, and try to figure out what the compensation for the position, not for Tim, what the position should be graded at. And if that needs to be rewritten, so be it. But rather than us vote tonight, because I frankly don't think it would go the right way if we voted tonight, I would ask, and I'd ask my colleagues, if we can have some time for a couple of us to dive into this and try to figure out where we can get, so that we can have to post something else in order to make this question.
Do you have did you find the difference in between 1 and 5?
It's 8. About 8.
It is 8?
It's about 8.
So
Okay.
1 and 5 is an 8, he would come in at a 3, so there is about
Oh,
a
okay,
$4,000
okay. All right,
difference, yep.
Treasurer?
Yes, Mr. Venuti?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I've talked with Alicia and Tim about this also. I agree with the discussion that the board's having, but there's still the process of the job description. This job description hasn't been looked at in years. Let's go through that, let's regrade it. Probably going to see something if the job really doesn't, if the description doesn't reflect
Yeah.
what the job is or has turned into. There's probably going to be a change. You'll see a bump, and then you can address
Okay.
the stipends after you know you get back.
So here's what I think
Much better,
too.
Lee.
I
Much better stated. than you said.
I think that there's no one on this.
Yeah.
There's nobody on this board who thinks that you shouldn't be compensated for the work that you're doing. And I think that we all agree that the steps aren't necessarily the right way to go. It sounds like a combination of changing the job description and rewarding you for doing things. I think Mark made a great point. Like if the CPR and the lifeguarding are not in the job description, and then you're irreplaceable if we put them in, we should reward you for those in some other fashion outside of your salary. So I would echo what Chuck said. Like, we want to make you to remunerate you for what you do. I'm not sure how we're going to get there exactly or when, but we do want to do it. So, do you have a deadline? I know Jen.
You have to say it in public.
Okay, that's fair. Like we all agree that this is something that we need to do.
The one piece that I do want to add to this is, before Tim came on board, I didn't do the lifeguard training, but I did do the CPR, AED, and first aid training with all of the staff, and that was something that I chose to do to be able to save those funds in-house. So that was something that I did with all of the staff, and as he came on board and had more experience and, was going to take over the aquatics and the beach, it seemed, the appropriate thing for him to do.
So that should be added.
So it should be added to the job description.
Okay,
for
fair
sure.
enough. Okay, so that's good to know. So how can we? So what's how can we adjust the job description and define it and when?
Well, it's the manager's job.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So,
Along with the personal advisory committee, right? So we'd have to.
Yep.
yeah, well, yes, but first it's you sitting down and maybe with Michelle, or just to make sure that, you're capturing everything.
Yeah,
Well, you know the process.
I do. Yep.
And then you turn it in, the personal advisory committee
Grades it.
would
Grades
grade
it, grades it.
with the new information. It doesn't always work out. That's why we realize there's two
Yep.
separate things at play here.
Yeah.
If it doesn't grade out what you're thinking it might grade out, then that's another decision point, obviously, you have to make.
100%.
But I will stick to the rest of it. We could have another department head come up here with wanting to do the same thing. We have to address this in other ways outside of the compensation grid, because one of the reasons we did this with the compensation grid is expanded out, is so that we could get away from this.
Okay. So let's begin with the job description
Yeah. Okay.
and read and discuss this again as soon as possible.
Okay. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Tim,
Thank
very
you.
much.
Thank you.
All right. Who is going to discuss
Different pants next time?
the exciting world of tax classification hearings? Who is it? Steve? It's all on me? All right. 1.42 it is. We're done. Okay.
We don't have to check. Yeah. Put it up there so they can look at it. Yeah.
Has the board looked at the,
Yeah, I know.
or do we need to open a public
Yes, we
hearing? Okay. I forgot it was a public hearing.
Chuck, we don't have a motion for that, you could just, just
I
make a motion.
move
to
that the
open
select board open public hearing for tax
hearing.
classification.
Second.
Motion made by Chuck, seconded by Cindy. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. Should we begin with board comments or public comments? It's your pleasure.
Public know what we'll have to.
Are there any public comments on the tax classification? Mr. Sanders?
You read this?
No, I didn't read it.
You want a minute?
George Sanders, 672 Great Road. Mr. Chairman, when you open up this public input there, I have a lot of information I want to give you, because I'm not happy with the way this town is spending taxpayers' money here. And I hope that whatever this classification is that you're going to come up and set the rate for, that you're fair to the taxpayers of this town. Because I know things are going up, but the way I see you use the slide rule here with this extension of the grid that you passed here not long ago and moving people around, first thing, my concern is that I'll wait till I get there, because I really got some information for you. Thank you.
I'm sorry, I don't understand. This is the public hearing, and once the public hearing is over, we're going to close it, and we're going to deliberate amongst ourselves. So if you have
You're
something
talking about the tax classification?
we're talking about the tax classification.
Yeah, but you got the public input.
Yeah, that's
Oh, I'm
not
sorry, yes.
this item. on the
Yes,
agenda,
okay.
right.
I understand now what you're saying. Thank you. I misunderstood. Okay. Is there any other one who wants to be heard on the, otherwise we'll close the public hearing? Nope. Let's close the public hearing and debate amongst ourselves. Mr. Clerk?
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Chuck, seconded by Mark. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
The public hearing is closed. All right. I will, if anyone on the board wants to begin with a suggestion for the new tax rate, the new split.
I like number 3.
Number 3.
It's fairly close to what we did previously. It keeps the percentage, the percentage that we were told not to exceed. It seems
Commercial.
the commercial rate, it seems the fairest to me.
It seems that the commercial rate is reduced and the residential is increased?
The commercial rate is reduced slightly, I think. right?
0.25%.
Okay. Mr. DeCoste?
Yeah, so I'm probably a little closer to number 5, which is a CIP of 1.42, which is 4.4 on the residential and 1.52 on the CIP.
Okay.
But
Mr. Wilson?
I'm willing
Yeah.
to talk through any of it. yeah.
Mr. Wilson, do you have a preference?
Yeah, this was one that you'd think, spending time on FinCom, you'd learn about this. This doesn't really come up all that much on the Finance Committee, so I had to really educate myself as much as possible on this. And just knowing, I'm actually, I agree with Mark here, this year specifically for number 3, obviously gives us the most room looking forward now, next year and the year after, when we're talking about cutting up against that 1.5 cap. I like that freedom, but more so that here we are on the cusp of trying to really bring commercial businesses and everything into this town, and already at an extraordinarily high commercial rate. I don't know how we can shift more burden that way yet, until we start to see some of these businesses come into town and move up, and then we can start talking a little bit more. Where we're not raising the residential taxes, what we're raising, unfortunately, is the value of everyone's property is skyrocketing, which is, and I think that needs to be stated, and we can't state it enough, that we sit here and we talk about, your tax rate is actually going down this year, but your
bill's going up.
Your bill's gonna be going up.
Your price
And
per
it's because
thousand.
the value of your property, I think, do we have a presentation on what the value of our residential properties went up in Littleton this year?
We did
I
last
think
time, yeah, it was like
enormous.
the last, 15% or something in 1 year, yeah,
Billions, correct?
hundreds of millions.
Yeah, it was,
200 million went out.
yeah. So,
Worth over total is $2 billion.
yeah, so it's an unfortunate thing that I never understood, why'd my tax bill go up this year, and you're telling me my tax rate went down? Well, we're sitting here fighting against ourselves. We want to be able to, our property values go up, because if we ever want to move, we get to sell our houses for a whole lot more than we bought it for. But unfortunately, those of us that want to stay here just keep getting hit and hit and hit.
Yeah.
And I know that's a lot more information, but I had to educate myself on this, so I kind of talked my way through it, and I felt that number 3 was the safest this year
Okay.
to stay with.
Ms. Napoli, do you have any comments?
Oh, Mr. Fine, can
Could
you?
I interject briefly? Is that the increase in values in your home is less a driving factor, excuse me, in your tax bill going up than what the town is levying and spending?
Yeah.
So if we were to double the value of everybody's property in town, their tax bill would stay the same.
Who's talking?
So, sorry.
We can't hear you. So if you don't mind, coming up to the mic.
Yeah, well, I'll be done before I get up there. The value of your property, because it's essentially, the values have risen, let's say, pretty much uniformly across the different types of properties in town. I mean, I realize that's not the case, but it's close. That's just your percentage or your portion of the pie of the tax bill that you're paying. So if, as I said, if everybody's value doubles, you're still paying the same percentage of the pie. So it's,
Right.
what's affecting it is how much the town is spending and what the levy is.
Correct.
So it's a little bit different, because people look at it and go, well, my value went up, that's why my taxes went up,
Right.
not necessarily. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Napoli?
I don't have any comments at this time. I
Okay.
was just looking through are we going to have the PowerPoint presentation shown to
I
the
don't
public,
bel- I don't-
or?
I don't think so.
We did
Okay.
last time.
We
We did last time?
Yeah, we did last
I wasn't here, so
Yeah.
my apologies.
So I was going to say, that the commercial value has gone up as well. So I was looking at number 4, which is closer, obviously everybody is going to increase, but I have no strong preference for it. And if the last residential shift is the pleasure of the board, I'm willing to support that one as well. So. Final comments?
Any thoughts, input, recommendations?
I know the assessors don't like to give recommendations.
From the treasurer?
I think everybody knows where the treasurer stands on it.
All right, number 3
Number 3.
is the consensus? Yeah?
That was my.
Yeah. No, you made a good point.
But there's a lot more that goes into it, and
There's
I
a
mean,
lot more that goes into it.
this is such a small part of what we're talking about. I mean, we didn't even talk about, obviously, the spending, and inflation and everything else that's driving our costs up enormously. And I know we're gonna be talking about a deficit next year. In, contractual obligations and everything, the cost of everything.
Yeah.
Is going up in our town, and people need to make more because their dollars aren't going as far, and it's just it's a really tough battle that's not sustainable.
Okay.
So it's very frustrating, actually. But this is just, I know it's a small piece of it, but it's an important piece for sure.
Understood. All right, Mr. Clerk, let's go with number 3.
Is that what we're going with?
What's that? Yeah.
Well, do you need, I'll make a motion if you want.
No, I have no problem with the motion.
Because I know you didn't say 3.
No, but it's fine, but I mean, there's usually a little more deliberation, but I'm not gonna die on the hill for a difference of 12 cents on the commercial, on the residential rate, and it's for the average home, or for the,
$60.
it's, $61 difference. So, and it does give us that flexibility for
Right.
the CIP moving forward. So like I said, not gonna die on the hill. I could easily split the difference and go with number 4, but if the consensus is that we stick with number 3.
I was advocating for 4, but the comment about giving us room to maneuver in the next few years if we're getting into a situation where we have to make a larger change, that one resonated with me, so I like number 3.
Move the select board vote pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 40, Section 56, relative to the fiscal year 2023 property tax to establish a residential factor of 1.39495. No, that's the 0.89345. Sorry, I was reading the CIP. To adopt,
To not adopt the
to
residential.
not adopt a residential
Not
redemption, well, do we want to discuss those, or?
Yeah, it's new to me, so, I mean, I read through it, and I understand why we don't want to adopt or establish these, and
I as well.
I don't know what a tipping point is that would make us want to, I mean, what?
Have we ever adopted it? A residential or commercial exemption? The residential exemption is typically for communities that have a significant portion of rental properties.
Right. So,
Yes,
Bring the
so-
whole thing.
So I believe not on both.
I think we
Again.
typically voted not
Yes,
to do it.
correct.
Ryan, can you bring it back to the motion? I'll repeat it. All right, again, move the select board vote pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 40, Section 56, relative to the fiscal year 2023 property tax to establish a residential factor of 0.89345. Killing me, Ryan.
No.
And not
Yeah, yes.
adopt a residential exemption and not adopt a small commercial exemption.
Second.
Motion made by Chuck, seconded by Mark. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
The motion carries 5-0. Thank you very
Actually,
much.
We did close the hearing. right? We did close it.
Yeah, we
did.
closed the public hearing. All right, public input. Mr. Sanders, would you like to speak? Yes.
George Sanders, 682 Great Road. Mr. Chairman, I think that what happened here with Park and Recs, I should have done a public hearing on it. I find that, one, is that if the town is going to promote people, you're an equal opportunity employer. Any of these jobs posted, whether it was inside or outside, or any of these jobs posted, that these people sliding on this scale or this new grid that the town developed?
They weren't new jobs, so they weren't posted.
we took every existing job, Mr. Sanders, from the old grid and moved it into the new grid with their current salaries. And if they fell between 2 steps, they just moved up because you can't take money away from an employee.
I realize you can't take money away from them, but I don't think you can just arbitrarily just give them money because they're doing a good job either. So what I heard here tonight is you giving people money because they're doing a good job. Now you got everybody else in this town that's working for the town that's doing a good job. Now they're gonna come up and say, I've been doing a good job. Now I want to get some money too. I want you to give me some money. If you're going to move people like that, you're going to have to do everybody the same way. You cannot do 1 or 2 here or there. The other thing is that when the Park and Rec became back to be a department of the town of Littleton, I keep hearing almost like they're thinking they are enterprise. I'm sure you heard of manpower studies. There are companies that does that. They come in and they take a position and they tabulate exactly how much time it takes to do this task, to come up with whatever the hours are for that job description. I think this should have been done for Park and Recs because they came back as a department. We need to know, do they need all the positions and things that they're saying that they have, that they want, and what they're doing? We don't know. So the money that is being put in there and say, oh, it's coming from the revolving. Well, I understood that the revolving, according to the town administrator with finance, that all this money was no longer known as enterprise money. So if we are going to run the town like this, we got a serious problem. Because I don't think you're being fair to all the employees in this town that are doing a good job, that are getting paid. And if you're going to do stuff like that and have a meeting here to do it like this, that should have been a public, as far as I'm concerned as a citizen, that should have been a public hearing so we'd have known what was going on. Since the jobs were not staffed. The gentleman said he's been here 5 years. That was under the enterprise. So all these jobs now that is with Park and Rec, have they been staffed?
No.
Here we go. We got jobs prescription here. They ain't been staffed. And we're giving people incentives here because they're doing a good job. Come on, you're better than that. We are better than this. We need to do right. And what I heard here tonight is not right. Not taking anything from anybody. If they deserve it, they deserve it. And if there's greener pasture, let them go to greener pasture. But we need to be right by everybody that work for the town of Littleton. This is a good town, and we need to do it right. Thank you.
Thank you. I just will say, Mr. Sanders, specifically, one item there that you got wrong. We very specifically did not award more money for someone who's just doing a good job. We spoke in two separate situations. One employee who was moved in the grid into an improper position based on his experience, and the other one who asked for an increase in step, and we said, we're not ready to do that. We don't believe it's a good idea. So, no, you know what? I don't want to get into a debate with you, sir. Okay, so let's wrap this up, though. We're already behind schedule.
I'm saying what I heard here tonight, and what I heard here tonight was based on people doing over and above their duties as a good job. That's what I heard. And they wanted to reward them by sliding them in this scale that you had. That's what I heard.
Okay, that's not correct, but...
If I may, through the chair. So I specifically mentioned that we absolutely, historically have done that, and I want to get away from it. I don't know if you heard that. I don't know if you were in here. I specifically said that we need to develop a rewards program using stipends, whatever, to award all departments, you know, whether it's through an award program where people get nominated, anyone can nominate any employee. Quarterly, we look at it, and we issue out small bonuses for people that went above and beyond during that quarter. So I think that's where we're trying to get to, George. I agree that we cannot continue to move people, to reward people by moving them in steps. It's not sustainable.
Okay, I really want to move on now.
Okay,
Thank you for your input. Board member updates, Ms. Napoli?
I don't have anything, thank you.
Mr. Wilson?
I left my paper at home.
Oh, no.
I do just want to thank, FIBA, because we didn't really dwell on it much, but that was a really thoughtful letter that business sent to us, and I think that's, they're probably truly a model of a business that moved into town and did the best they could with what we offered them, and they've been held true to their word, and they're doing a good job.
Yeah.
Did what they said and said what they did. They've been a great corporate citizen.
Yeah.
You're right.
Mr. DeCoste?
So I just wanted to mention that the Weber Village is the development across from St. Anne's Church behind the old Weber Florist. And there is a lottery being held in January for 2 affordable units. one detached single-family home and one townhouse. So anybody, the qualifications are pretty specific, but for anybody that may in fact qualify, I'd love to see some Littleton residents get these units, because historically we haven't, I think we've gotten one over at, on Spec Pond or Bluebird.
Cricket Lane.
Yeah, so one Littleton resident did win the lottery and get into one of those affordable units. So I just wanted to put that out there. The MCO Housing Services runs the lottery. So they're at 92 King Street on Patricia Way. And so if there's any information that people, Anthony, is that something that you might be able to provide? If somebody reaches out to the town administrator's office, I can give you the information and then you could provide it to
We can
folks.
certainly point them in the right direction.
Right, so if anybody has any questions about the qualifications and whatnot, you can reach out to the town administrator's office and they'll have the information handy for you. That's it.
Mr. Rombacher?
I went to the middle school musical on Saturday. The kids did the most amazing job. All of the middle schoolers were up there doing Willy Wonka, practicing their English and German accents. It was amazing. So congratulations to everyone who participated. And I believe the high school band concert is tomorrow night for anyone that's interested.
I attended the tree lighting last night. Santa was there, I saw him, it was very exciting, and I got a lot of donuts. So I'm just saying it was a win-win. Joint meeting with the Finance Committee, presentation of the budget.
Just a thank you to Rotary just for.
Oh, yeah,
for their
always a thank you to
continued-
And the
Rotary.
Holiday Bazaar.
Oh, the Holiday Bazaar,
Plug.
I missed it, yeah.
It was a
Santa was
unbelievably
there,
attended.
Santa was there too,
Yeah.
yeah.
Unbelievably attended.
Okay. Let's move on to the capital and operating budgets presentation.
Well, Lisa's walking up, I'm just gonna start.
Do we need, does the school committee and the finance committee need to call? Are they in session for this?
I don't,
We posted it, so we should probably open our meeting. Right?
Yeah. Do you have a quorum?
We did.
Okay. Please, go. Thank you. And FinCom?
yeah, they don't have a quorum, but there's some members here.
Okay, so they don't have to open the meeting if they don't have a quorum? Okay.
Is there better seats? All right, 8:04, December 5th, we call to order the school committee meeting. On the second? Second. Motion made and seconded, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, we're now in session.
Thank you.
All right. I just want to kick it off for Alicia when she was getting set up. What you're going to be presented tonight is really just, this is all the rough data. So Alicia sent out the instructions for each department, including the school department, in submitting the budget request. What you're going to be hearing is the unvetted budget request, which Alicia's going to go through right now, which shows a deficit for the asks for what our revenues are of $1.7 million, and our capital, which is somewhere in over, requests are about $8 million higher, $7 million higher than what we have. So this is unvetted. This is the raw data that was requested by the board that we present before we go to the process of internally reviewing the asks, sitting with departments, and then hopefully presenting our recommended spending plan at the next meeting. Hopefully, that's going to be a balanced budget, but 1.7 million is going to be a challenge for sure.
So I know this is something we've talked about several times over the last year. I really appreciate you bringing us the raw data. Just want you to know that.
Sure. Thank you.
Okay. Let's go.
Good evening, Honorable Select Board, School Committee, residents, Finance Committee members. So tonight, we're just going to go over what we have, which is our deficit presentation this evening of 1.7 million, as Town Administrator Anthony Ansaldi stated, between our revenues and what has been presented as expenses. We have 6 positions being added that we have not been vetted yet, that we're going to be looking at when we meet with the different departments.
I'm sorry, you have 6 requests for new positions?
6 positions.
Okay.
2 are half and 4 are full-time. 5 are full-time, sorry about that. Some of the highlights for the budget is 8.88% is coming from the town. This is made primarily the fire department increase of 24.43% due to wages. Building division within the land use increased 14.79%. Health increased 19.13% due to adding back the Neshoba Board of Health assessment that was removed. Parks and Rec increased 17.96% with a 30% increase in their utilities. We transferred 20,000 from PMBC to facilities, so in the facilities budget, it looks like a really huge increase, but that, part of that is a transfer. Another part of that is that new facilities manager that was voted, and a part-time admin assistant to assist them, along with a 10% increase to the utilities. LELWD told me at least 10% is an increase for electricity. I'm not sure the increase yet for water. Property and liability insurance, I estimated an increase of 20% based on a new senior center and any other additional equipment and vehicles that may be coming. Estimated our technical school assessment increase about 10%. Health benefits, 9% based on national average. I confirmed that with our Maya representative. They will be telling us the real amount in the spring, but this is a conservative amount that they felt comfortable with. The treasurer budget increase is primarily due just to a transfer position from HR down into treasury. The town clerk elections budget increase of 67% is due to the unfunded early voting mandate. So all those police details that have to be there. And then what we also did is we had software costs that were in the communications budget transferred to the specific departments. The purpose of this is for transparency, to show the true cost of operating those departments instead of just putting it in communications. You can see if it's just specific to that one department's operations, how much it really costs to run that department. The next slide is the school budget, 7.4% increase, or 1.7 million. You can see the COLA and step lane increases on there of 803,000. Their technical staff, their new staffing requests. They also have increases in the utility costs, out of district tuition, change in time, adding more buses.
Additional bus routes if for a later start time at the high school is 280,000.
That's in here?
That's in
Yeah.
there. Okay.
That's in their 7.4% increase.
So how many more buses is that?
It's
Four
bus
more?
routes.
Okay.
Correct. Four bus routes or four buses? 4 additional buses. And the
Each
other 100,
bus run 2 routes as opposed to 3.
right, the additional
So you
100,
shrink the start times between
8 and 9.
right, the additional 113,000 is what's expected. They have to go out to bid for the contract. You show up, the D-bus is seeing the same thing as everybody else. They're gonna have to pay people more, and I think that's what Steve put together and the school committee approved. The additional contract, the existing contract, on $113,000 increase.
Okay, so as Town Administrator Slotty said earlier, me.
Do you have a question? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was holding questions, but since can we jump in with questions?
Yeah.
Yes,
Or do you want-
please,
everybody's
no,
open.
please
yeah.
jump in.
Okay, so going back to the fire department, there had been a whole discussion, and I suspect I'm not the only one who got confused about whether the fire department adding a position was going to reduce overtime or was not going to reduce overtime. Oh, sorry. I have to say all that again. Is the fire department getting another position going to reduce overtime or not reduce overtime? And I think there was a lot of confusion about that last time, and I'm hoping that by now we have an answer to that.
Again, this is the unvetted budget request. I can tell you that, and Chief, correct me if I'm wrong, there's 2 additional new firefighters this year, and there's an increase in the overtime. We've had an initial conversation with we have not really discussed what we can do and what we can't do.
Yeah, through the chair.
Yes.
So I just want to get because this is kind of new, this particular briefing for us. Are we going to get into those questions with the departments in January when we meet one-on-ones? We can dig into all of that? Or
Right after, yes, after the
Yeah,
next meeting.
that's
I think
actually a- I mean,
We're going
that's
to
a
have
good
budget
question.
books ready for December 19th. December 19th?
December 21st. Our recommendations, we're shooting for the 19th budget books. I'd
The
like to
21st.
start getting them prepared the
Right.
21st.
So we'll produce a recommended spending plan, hopefully it's balanced, and then the budget books will go out, and that's when the FinCom and the Select Board goes to work and evaluating all those requests, and
But if I may, I'd like our input to happen as part of the input towards getting to the balanced budget, not after we get a balanced budget.
this was the request of the Select Board during discussions throughout the course of the year, to have the town administrator produce, and with the finance director, an attempt at a recommended balanced budget. If there's different direction from the Select Board, certainly we can give you a $1.7 million deficit, and you can try to solve that.
But, so I think you two might be talking about different things. I think you have all the, you will have all the information in this presentation if you want to dig in. Like, I understand that there's questions about, like, what the specific firefighter position might do to their budget, but that's probably something you'd have to ask the chief for, and that's part of the process in January.
Yeah, Matthew, through the chair, I think what I expected the finance, when we're talking about you, Alicia, and the finance team, whenever I said I'm assuming the finance committee is also part of that discussion to get this $1.7 million deficit figured out with you, and then you present options to us on, hey, here's A, B, or C, or go your own way.
Right,
So,
because
right.
I don't think FinCom's purpose is just to say yes at the end of the process.
I think we agree. I think that's what Gary just said.
So what's the best way to integrate? What's the best way to integrate this then with you? I mean, here's where we're at. This is our first look at. Here's our deficit, and here's here's all the information. Now it's going to go to you, our board, you, and we can start chewing on it. But at the end of the day, I mean, I think we're expecting the finance team and the finance committee to come up with some options and hard truths that can be presented to us. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, through the chair, yes. So all the information and data, as Dahlia said, is in this. You can see everything, the whole package of everything. Then what's going to happen is we're going to try to iron down as much as we can so that we can get it balanced, so that you're not looking at a $1.7 million deficit. That does not mean that what we give you is, that's it, here you go. You get to look at it. It's just our recommendation of what we think.
Right, every department, and I fully expect the chief, and I'll use the chief because we had a great conversation the other day, as far as he's advocating for his department. He's going to go with the request that he feels. He also realizes that he may not be able to get everything, right, because we just can't afford it. But certainly advocate for your department. The departments wouldn't be doing it. And same with the schools, right? Advocate for what you need.
I think this is an important conversation, like, how do you want to handle it? I feel like you have all the information you need, and it's up to you to, like, find out what you want to do and make recommendations to everybody.
Right, it just, and, I've been off FinCom for a while, but in the past, there's always, departments came before your board and our board, and we talked it through, and, there was the horse trading and all that, and then we got to, and, we got everyone to, with the understanding everyone advocating for their department, but then there's also reality. It's like, I want a pony, I'm not going to get a pony. And then we together got to a balanced budget. I just don't want us to be seeing a fait accompli.
I don't think that you are.
Okay.
I don't feel that you are.
It's not going to happen.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, we're talking more than ever with when you talk 1.7 million, you need to be in every room. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
So that was a valuable version, though. Actually.
Can I ask one question real quick? You said there were 6 positions added. What are those 6?
I have it right here.
We have one part-time admin assistant facilities, 2 full-time employees for the DPW, 1 in highway, 1 in parks, 2 full-time employees for the fire department, a half-time more for the HR generalist, benefits administrator, and HR, and 1 PRCD office coordinator from part-time to full-time.
If I may.
Yes?
The 2 positions in highway are to fill the 2 empty positions?
No.
Or an
No.
addition?
2 additional.
2 additional.
So we'll literally be replacing 5 employees in
Correct.
January when Jim leaves.
Well, no. You would have replaced 3 in January.
Backfilling 3 and
then
adding 2.
2, if you,
In July.
if they make it through the budget process, they will for July. Thank you, Gary. Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
And if we want to skip to the next slide on the proposed fiscal year '24 capital budget, you can see the capital request, cemetery, $100,950, DPW, $165,525, fire, $471. The biggest drivers being Parks and Recs, $3.3 million, and the school department at $4.9, bringing the grand total to $9.5, with our capital funding available of $1.7. Pay cable and grant funding of $41,950, leaving a shortfall of $7.8 million. The next slide actually shows the projects and the funding sources they listed to fund them from.
So real quick before we move off of this slide, so, no.
No, go back.
The one you wrote?
That one. Where it says grant and revolving fund, are we talking those still come out of that 1 point whatever million, or they come from some other fund?
So what I did was I added that paid cable grant, $41,950, so that's where they're coming from. So if it says grant, it's added into that paid/grant.
Right, and looking at
Slide
some...
before.
Yeah, looking at some of the requests, Mark, when we started talking to department heads, there's another funding source besides the 1.7 general fund money. And that's what some notations that we made there for possible funding sources for those.
Okay, so just on this slide, just to pick on the fire again, the 415 for the ambulance isn't coming out of that 1 point some million dollars?
I did take that, yes, even though it says revolving, because it would take time for him to build a $415,000 balance.
Yeah, we talked to the chief with that. The chief, we don't have that money in the revolving fund. So that's couldn't come from the revolving fund.
Okay.
But we have a plan that we'll present on the 19th that I think is acceptable to the chief and moving forward.
Thank you.
Well, there's a bug.
Keep it to yourself.
There's a bug.
The next slide shows planning, police, and Parks and Recreation. The biggest driver in Parks and Recreation being the community center with a pool at almost $3 million. And a new field creation at $200,000. The police want a camera security system for about $250,000, and a part of their cruiser replacement plan, $140,000 for 2 cruisers. And the last slide is the school asks $4 million for the high school roof, being their biggest cost driver. Fix alumni field, $280,000. The high school roof top HVAC units, $275,000. So we're gonna have to do a lot of deep vetting when looking at the budget and looking at these projects.
And believe it or not, I know that that's a real high delta, but I'm less concerned with the capital because there's, the school roof, you just don't allocate $4 million. Mass General Law, Chapter 149 says you have to go through the process of design, bid, build. So the first thing that we would be looking at is probably having a study done, a feasibility with an engineer to determine the condition of the roof and phasing it through. And that's what we have to do according to law. So there's some work to do. So it's not as alarming on the capital. And I did speak with Superintendent Clenchey and Steve Mark, and we sat down, and they're well aware of it. But it's something that, it's great that we have an idea of what somebody might think the roof cost. Obviously, if we could try to push it out and try to patchwork it, we make that an MSBA project, we get 50% reimbursement from the state. We have to do some work still on this.
Can we still do the tennis courts in this configuration under CPC funds?
Yes, possibly, yes. Yes.
Brian.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Yep.
Yep.
All the stipulations of early, blah, 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 but I'm just, this is $3 million for a pool, and this is sort of the first, this in a budget hearing is the absolute first time I'm hearing about this?
I specifically asked for a
It's,
pool.
what?
It's the Wilson Aquatics.
It was in,
Park and Rec has talked about it for a while,
Right.
and it's going to continue to be on here. I think it was brought up last
It
year.
was brought up last year.
Right.
But I think,
it was on their 5-year plan
yeah.
last year.
So we're gonna
Went
see
to
it
a
for the next
10-year
5.
plan this year, and it's been on there, so she's just moving it forward. Again, she's advocating for the needs of her department, just like the fire department, just like the school department. Everybody has the right to request, and like you said, and to use your own words, not everybody's gonna get a pony, right?
Right, but I'm just, having just sort of beaten
Don't
back
blame
the
them for
$3
asking.
million
They're doing their
tennis
jobs.
court.
They're doing their jobs.
And okay, and I'm doing my job as being, my head is exploding, having just, let me just finish for a second. Having, my head is exploding, having just, with all your fine folks' help, maybe saved the town a couple $1 million on the tennis courts. It's like, you know, it's just a,
You're not alone with your head exploding, Brian. I think we all
I'll just
share
sit
the
down
same
now.
pain.
That's why we have you sitting.
Sorry.
Do you, does school committee have any comments or questions?
No, I suppose if you have questions for us, we'd be happy to answer them. We did have a joint meeting with the FinCom a couple weeks ago and went through sort of how we arrived at the 1.7. So, I mean, we're happy to talk in a little bit more detail about some of these, if you like, if you think that would be helpful. If you understand them, then we don't have to make your...
I mean, you know, I don't want to pick on anybody. I was a little...
You've been picking on the fire department, so...
Yeah, that's true. Well, he can take it, though.
Justin's being a team player.
You know, I was a little shocked at the cost of the extra bus routes, to be honest with you. Like, that's something that, you know, I think a lot of the people who want a different start don't necessarily take into account is how much it's going to cost and what we're going to have to trade it against. So I just wanted to point that out to everyone who's watching at home.
Right.
Not that I oppose it, but when you look at a number like that, it becomes very real.
So I can speak to that a little bit. I mean, we're getting hit with a bit of a double whammy situation with the buses because the contract's up. So we're like, you know, but it's also could be a good thing too, because we're gonna now put out a bid for 4 more buses and we might get somebody other than the current provider to take the bait on it, who knows? But we did try to, through the community survey, let folks know that when we switched from a 3-tier system, 3 bus routes to 2 tiers, that would come at an additional cost, of course, because we would need more buses. And then the school committee had a very frank discussion in the past 2 meetings about what that cost would look like, and essentially we decided that it's a little bit more than 1% of our total budget, and we have heard from the community in a number of years that this is an important step. The high school starts high school and middle school start really early, not only within the state, but within the nation, and it's something that the community's asked us for. So we're advocating for the students and the families of Littleton, and we're going to try to make it work.
It makes a lot of sense.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So I'll just speak on this because I was on the school committee 7 years ago and I advocated for an earlier start time then. Or later start time then, yeah. And I think, and I was, at the time, the price we were given for the additional buses was much higher, was what the estimate was. So, but on the other hand, I have trouble just putting on my fiscal hat here saying that $280,000 is basically you're trading 4 buses for 4 teachers. So that's what you're asking people to do. And if you phrase it that way, I don't know how many people choose the 2 bus route option versus something else for the later start time.
Let me be clear, we're not proposing any cuts to the staff.
I understand that, but $280,000 hires at least 3 teachers.
We believe we're adequately staffed, so at this point in time, we're looking to spend the $280 on healthier start times.
Makes sense.
I'm just writing down the quote. We believe we're adequately staffed. Kelly just,
Do the board members have any other questions?
Well, I'll ask the school on the capital plan, has there been talk of, with the HVAC systems and those replacements, looking at green community grants and the things that are available for higher sustainability and money from that route?
The school does a phenomenal job, and always has been, as long as I've been here, taking advantage of the green communities. Of the over $1 million, I would say the school is probably responsible for $900,000 in spending, and they really do a tremendous job at trying to reduce costs.
credit to Dave, right? Dave?
Dave, yes, Dave really does. He's phenomenal.
Anyone else?
I'm just going to make a comment. You mentioned 10%, LELWD is saying it's going to be a 10% increase across the board, essentially. If you anybody that watches the news know that National Grid is talking about 64%. So, it's just we're fortunate that 10% isn't easy to swallow, but it could be 64% if we were just one town west of here.
Any other questions?
So many, but well.
Can I say one thing just about the budget?
Get a microphone.
I'm Brad Austin, oh, sorry.
Thank you.
For the microphone.
Thanks, Alicia.
Thank you, Alicia.
Brad Austin, Adams Street. School committee, I thought Justin explained our reasoning really well. We're drawing a lot of attention to the bus route cost, but it's essentially the same as putting 2 new lamps on the football field. We're asking for changing some lights. It's $280,000. It's almost dollar for dollar. We'll have a conversation about what's the best use of town funds. The school committee, and based on our community surveys, the community strongly believes it's changing the start times. It's going to be better for our kids in 32 different ways. And so as we have those conversations, as a group of 5, we voted for this unanimously, but we thought we were representing the community for that.
If I can just make one thing to what you said, it's not apples for apples with the 2 lights, right? The 2 lights is a capital one-time expense where the buses are continuing.
Absolutely.
So it's not a trade-off. We can't say, we won't do the lights, give us the bus routes, because that just solves one-year problem, which you never want to use one-time revenues for reoccurring costs.
Understood, thank you.
Here's another point to add. We're not the only school district that has been doing this.
Kelly, hold on one second. Let's get a microphone.
Sorry.
Here, sit there, Kelly.
I'll come to you. I'll be halfway.
All right.
I think it's important to realize that we're not the only school district that has been doing this. In the past 5 years, there have been many school districts within the state of Massachusetts that have addressed their start times. We have one of the earliest start times in the state for middle school and high school. The research is very clear that increasing start times to a later date does have an effect on students' mental health and academic achievement. So it's something to consider.
Thanks.
Thank you.
If I may,
Yes.
I'll ask a question directly. So, I'm trying to figure out why the cost. I think we had the conversation, Justin, but I can't remember where the cost comes from. If we're just moving a time, how does that relate to cost? So
currently,
why more buses if you're just moving a time?
We're not. So
That's what I'm-
the buses currently run 3 loops. So we have like a 7:15 start time, an 8 o'clock start time, and basically a 9 o'clock start time.
Yes.
So we're shrinking that down to 2 start times. So we're eliminating that early 7:15 business, and we're basically having start times around 8 and 9. So we need extra buses because the buses are only going to go out twice versus going out 3 times. And that's how we're eliminating the early run. Does that make sense?
Thank you, yep.
We could just get longer buses and
Double decker.
put more kids on them, but it doesn't work that way.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? Great.
Actually, Justin, just because you have the microphone and we're talking about it, I'm assuming it's going to be Shaker Lane, Russell together, and middle school, high school together.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's just concerns with conversations on buses and things like that.
So to wrap this up, Mr. Ansaldi, next steps?
We have a lot of work to do collectively to produce, by law, balanced budget in time for town meeting. So I'm sure we'll get there. It's gonna have to be sacrifices on both sides to get there, but, you know, I think in my 5 budget cycles I've been here, from the assistant and to now as your town administrator, I've never seen a delta like this. You know, normally we're within reach, and I think that it's up to Select Board and FinCom where they say, well, we can't add these positions, and bang, we have a balanced budget. 1.7 is a big number, and you know, it's because of decreased revenues, right? It's because of a recession that, you know, that we're in, and the impact on revenues that really is contributing to this issue.
And I think we've spoke to it. And this, we've been talking about this, I know, on FinCom, the warning, the closer we get to 2024, we knew this was going to be the year that this was all going to come to light or hit. And it just, so it's not a huge surprise. I don't like to use the word dig into. We might have to look into our stabilizations, and that's, or we're going to get real creative on what the absolute needs are. But I think we need to, I'm assuming FinCom's invited to our meetings, and I think they should actually be at the table. So
they're going to be discussing it tomorrow, so we'll go through this same presentation, and they can ask a lot more questions tomorrow. But you're right, Gary, I think this year in 24, even the following year, I think it's going to still be difficult. And the only thing that we have to be concerned about is really tapping into those stabilizations. Because anything we do impacts that AAA bond rating, and that's the amount of money that we borrow. We get great rates, and we don't want to jeopardize that bond rating. So we really have to be creative and work together to come to a solution.
Thank you.
Are there any considerations for any types of freezes on expenses and that kind of thing? Those conversations begun at all, or?
You know, honestly, Chuck, we're going to be really digging into this, and, you know, part of the contributing is, you know, we had a lot of positions that were approved even at special town meeting and even at the annual last year that are impacting, that are contributing to this. Some of those we haven't been able to fill, and it may be our recommendation to get there that we not fill those positions, that we pump the, thank you, to use your term, pump the brakes on those because we're not ready. So, and I can't say that we've done that, but I think everything has to be on the table when you're looking at a $1.7 million deficit.
Mr. Sanders, would you like to make a comment?
George Sanders, 672 Great Road. Mr. Chairman, to you, to the school committee, what was the number that dictated to change the time? And second, are those parents that are paying for bus rate now, is there going to be an increase to the parents to pay more because you're changing the time?
Yeah, back through the chair. We are going to evaluate the bus fees. So it's been a number of years since we've adjusted that, and the school committee is going to look at the possible increase to help offset some of that 280. In terms of your first question as to what did we look at, what was the number that we looked at to want to make us change the start times?
Right, what was the number that dictated that?
The number of people.
I think maybe
The
just
survey, did the survey dictate the change? What was the number?
Correct. So
For
we,
and against?
I think the best thing to do would be to give you a copy of our presentation, which had a number of charts and graphs in it so you could see it very clearly. But I mean, essentially, 3/4 of people are in favor of a change. It's just, what would that change be? Generically speaking, but we can get you the presentation. It's available online.
Yeah, if you forward it to me, I can pass it off to Mr. Sanders.
Sure.
Thank you, Mr. Sanders.
Thank you.
If that's it, you can close your meeting.
Sure.
If you're ready.
Nothing else to say, right?
Yeah.
We get to talk about beer.
And then we get to talk about beer, so.
Make a motion to close the school committee meeting.
Second motion.
Motion made and second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. You're closed.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Thank you, FinCom members, too,
Stay
for
engaged.
participating.
Yep.
And let's keep talking. There's going to be a lot of talking.
Yeah.
A lot of, okay.
Kicking, screaming.
No kicking or hitting.
In Wilson's pool.
If you know any millionaires, just, never mind.
Okay. Dirigible Brewing, request for extended hours on the 31st. Good evening, sir.
Evening.
Thank you for waiting. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
How are you tonight?
Always a smile on his
Doing
face.
well.
They gave you the night off?
What's
you're
that?
not open.
Oh, no, I was working until I got here. Always working.
Oh, yes, your name
Just
and,
introduce yourself,
Yes.
name and, not address, but
Yeah. My name's
association.
Colin. I'm one of the owners of Dirigible Brewing Company.
Thank you. And you would like to extended hours on the 31st?
That's correct. Yes,
Okay.
we like to be able to have a New Year's celebration at the brewery there.
Mr. Ansali, has this been, run by the police?
It has
Department?
been. It has been vetted by the police.
No
department.
comment?
Chief Tonight
Okay.
has no comments on this.
Great. Any comments from the board members on this?
Probably pretty common around the Commonwealth.
It's pretty consistent with what you did last year. I think you closed at 12:30, other establishments that asked.
Yeah, he's asking till 1, which is
Last
fine.
call at 12:30.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, exactly. Perfect.
If there's no objections, do a motion.
Before the motion, I'll just say, for those of you that don't know, Dirigible is on Porter Road, and stop by, support local business.
Here, here.
Move that Select Board vote to approve the request from Chris Loring, CEO, Dirigible Brewing Company, for extended hours of operation from December 31st, 2022, New Year's Eve, to 1 a.m. on January 1st, 2023.
Second.
Motion made by Chuck, seconded by Cindy. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
It's a long sit for just that quick little.
I know.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Good luck.
Annual alcohol license renewals for 2023.
So your next two meetings, first meeting tonight, you're gonna review all of the liquor license, and next meeting, you're gonna do new and used vehicles and common vics and et cetera. So
Okay.
Diane's done a tremendous amount of work, working with all of our licensees and getting everything that they need. There might be some stragglers left, and that's why she has in the end, which is consistent with last year, to be reviewed by the town administrator, because obviously we're not gonna release the license till we have payment and any other straggling information. But other than that, it's been vetted by our departments, no issues with any of these. Happy to answer any other questions.
Great. Any other questions or comments from the board before we do this? If not, let's go ahead with the motion.
Move that the Select Board vote to approve the annual renewal of alcohol licenses as cited within the Select Board packet for the calendar year 2023. License issuance contingent upon satisfactory inspections and submission of all required documents, fees, and payments of municipal charges to be reviewed by Town Administrator.
Second.
Motion made by Chuck, seconded by Mark. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. Thank you all. All right. Next item, I asked for the Town Administrator Performance Goals and Evaluation Tool. I realize that we still have not officially approved Anthony's performance review from 2020, I believe. There was also discussion about his goals. I proposed some, and Cindy proposed some. I actually have a printout of the review. Here you go, pass this around. As well as the comment I wanted to add to it, as well as my proposal on the goals. Do you want one, Anthony?
Sure.
And then this is Cindy's goals. So I want to finalize this as much as we can. In my opinion, at this point, the goals are kind of meaningless, given that we're already into another review cycle. So it would be, I'm fine with adding them, but it would be a little bit like retroactive, given that he's already done the work. I propose that we vote to approve the review as it is included in that packet, along note that I've added on the first page, which it's missing. I think it's missing from you're missing a first page, but Mark has it. For some reason, I failed to add it to
We're good
yours.
sharers.
Yeah, good. So yeah, and that's what I'm bringing to the table here. So I'm welcome any comments or
So you're
suggestions.
proposing to approve your goals and my goals?
So I don't know, but the goals, I don't know. We can debate the goals. I'm proposing first that we approve his review with the additional sentences that I wrote, which is on the first page. Because we've never officially approved his review that we did in December of 2020, I believe.
We didn't do one in December 2020.
It was, no, what is it, early 2021?
Yeah.
2020, sorry,
was
December of
in- it
2021,
was
I
in-
believe, or November, maybe. It was late in 2021 that
Yeah.
we did it.
Right. Yeah, no, so that's, I'm fine with everything
Okay.
except for this last paragraph, that the aggregate review is incomplete. I don't agree with that.
Okay. I think
Wording-
we've-
And I don't think that that wording's necessary. I don't understand why you added that.
Because we did not provide him with goals to meet when we did that review, and so I don't, and given that those goals account for, I believe, more, 2/3 of his total review, I don't think it's fair to state that the review is complete. And I want to add that to make sure that that's understood.
Well, you're saying the aggregate review is incomplete. The
Yes.
aggregate itself is complete.
The review, as we provided for him as an annual performance review, is incomplete because it did not evaluate him on 5 goals, which is part of the criteria that the review form clearly states.
So you think that the aggregate that we put together as a board, the previous
I'm
board-
saying that the review that we put together is incomplete. The aggregate is the aggregate, but it's only 1/3 of the review.
Aren't
the
we
re-
completing the review now?
The review that I'm proposing, that we accept, was incomplete. It did not evaluate him on 100% of the criteria that the review form says we should evaluate him on. We only evaluated him on 1/3 of the criteria because there weren't goals for him to attain.
This is last week.
I don't, so this is, I am not following you at all. So
Can I try?
you can try.
Okay. So 1/3 of his review is what the aggregate is talking about, right?
Which aggregate are you referring to?
All of these numbers in this document are 1/3 of his review. The other 2/3 of the review is how he met his goals,
Which we didn't give.
which we never gave him goals, so you can't actually do the review. That's what Matthew's saying is the incomplete part. Not that the scores that are in here are incomplete. It's that the other part of the review can't be done because he never had the goals.
So the aggregate is fine, submit the aggregate and accept it. However, that should not be accepted as his entire review.
You're saying it just gets used to help us create this
I don't.
part of
this-
the
this-
next year's.
I'm saying that this needs to be part of the public record, which is going to be part of Anthony's record, and in my opinion, it's not fair to him to present this aggregate as the sole document for his year of work prior to this review, because we didn't do our job in giving him goals to attain and reviewing him on those goals.
We didn't give him goals because he didn't have a review previously. So this was like, the
No, that-
aggregate comprised his first review as our town administrator. So what goals didn't we give? I'm not following you at all.
I think when
sorry.
we initially did this, I think you actually made the comment, Cindy, that the job description was in fact what we were measuring up against. Those were his goals, was to
Right.
perform the functions of the town administrator.
Right.
I think those were the goals that we kind of,
That's what we used.
We used
And we
those to
used the criteria
measure
in the review forms that were given to us by HR that had the 5 categories.
But it also
Can I
had.
finish?
I'm sorry.
You keep interrupting me.
Sorry.
That's how we came up with the aggregate. That's what it was based upon, was the job description and then the form that was given to us by HR.
Can I take a crack at this, Mr. Chair?
I'm
We have a
just-
Form 2, and on the Form 2, there's 2 sections. There's the 5 numerical sections which you did review. Then, just like when I meet with our department heads, I set goals for them. And then we evaluate those goals at the end of the year. I think what Matthew's trying to say is that section was never done.
That's what we're doing right now, though.
You're setting goals for when you evaluate me in
Next year.
6
FY
months.
'23, frankly, right?
In 6 months.
Well-
We'll be doing all the reviews with your police chief, your
So this
fire
is an
chief,
old one.
myself,
All right.
and June.
So I'm not following at all. So so I don't want to get to the point where we're saying we had a review with Anthony and we never gave him goals. So when are we going to give him goals?
We have already gotten to the point, we did have a review with Anthony and we never gave him goals. That review that we did at the end of 2021, were never any goals as part of that review.
Because we've been kicking this down the road.
No, because-
For a year now.
It's not because that, it's not because this review that, well, it is because of this review. That review that we did on that date was incomplete because it didn't have goals to evaluate him on. Because
I
that
don't
was,
agree at all.
because that review was already a year, well, 6 or 8 months
I
late.
don't, I'm not following.
I'm-
Honestly, you guys do what you want. I can't argue this anymore. I've
Okay.
spent a year trying to close this loop. We had a very specific process with the assistance of town council, with the assistance of HR. If you want to put in there that is not, it's incomplete, you can vote on it. I'm not going to vote in favor of it because I don't agree with it. I'm not following it, and I can't spend any more bandwidth on this.
Okay.
So
What
I'm
if-
just going to let you guys do what you want.
If I-
Sorry.
Yes, you may.
Cindy, what if we amended it to say that,
It w-
instead of missing performance objectives, in lieu of performance objectives, the town administrator was evaluated
I don't care.
based upon job description?
It doesn't matter to me. Do what you guys want.
I would,
We spent a lot of time and effort on this with the assistance of HR, with the assistance of town council. I have, honest to God, 20 emails trying to finish this process. It's just embarrassing at this point. It's not fair to Anthony, it's not fair to the employees, and it's not fair to this board. So however you want to move forward, be my guest.
And that's the key that I'm after. I mean, I can't speak to this document as much because obviously it was the last board. So, but going forward, it's definitely not fair to the town administrator.
I just, I
don't
don't
care
even know
who
how
it
we
is,
go forward
to not
from
have
this now.
established.
So we're going to have a review in 6 months, and we're going to do what?
well, let's separate
get it.
the existing one with the goals that we can set tonight. I do think we should set goals, so that in 6 months, we can review him.
Yes.
We can do a complete review that evaluates his performance
So
against those goals.
we discussed your goals last meeting. I circulated my goals, so why can't we just vote on those goals and move
We
forward?
can do that as well, but we also need to finalize his review from 2021. And that's what I'm proposing to
We're
do.
finalizing by setting goals. You want to,
No, because the goals that.
you don't like the aggregate, Matthew.
No,
That's what
that-
the-
no,
that's what
no.
it com- That's the way I'm reading it. You don't like the aggregate process.
I believe that the aggregate is accurate, but that should not be the sole thing that we evaluate Anthony on for that year of his work. So the aggregate, what should have happened for this review is there should have been an aggregate, a review of his goals, and new goals.
Right.
All three of those things should have happened.
Right.
So none of them have happened yet. What I'm proposing tonight is.
And why haven't they
and what I
happened
hope- Let me
yet?
finish. What I'm proposing tonight is, we vote on the aggregate, which is the first part, we create new goals for him, which is the second part, and we acknowledge that we never could evaluate him on goals that didn't exist, which is the paragraph that I'm adding there. And then we will be ready to go on for his next review in 6 months.
Don't get it.
Okay?
I just can't get my head around it, so you guys do what you want,
I followed it.
Okay.
of course.
So this is in quotes. Did you get this from town council? Is
I
that why it's
wrote
in
it.
quotes?
No, I just wrote that.
So
And I've
you're
circulated.
You're quoting yourself.
And I've circulated it before. Well, I quoted it because I'm saying that's what should be added to the aggregate, separated out from the rest of the text.
Just have step.
Can I just say something? I have emails from you saying that you've worked with Anthony on goals that we knew nothing about. So you're saying that we never set goals for him. You told me that you were meeting with him with a coach and we're setting goals.
So the coach
Where
was,
are those
the coach was separate from, the coach was separate from these, the coach had nothing to do with these annual review goals. That was a separate work stream entirely.
Okay.
All right, so let me go back to 2021, which this was an attempted review, which can't be, in other words, it can't be a binding document that either shows excelling or can go on a record for any type of removal according to his contract, because it's incomplete.
That is my opinion.
All right, so you have this, basically agreeing on this, you're basically saying, we're going to acknowledge that that board scored Anthony on certain things, right?
Right.
And this is the aggregate of that. That's it?
Absent goals.
And then we,
Absent
absent goals, okay, absent goals. and then we're going to create,
New
That's what he's
goals.
saying.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
But when were we going to do the goals?
Right now, we're gonna,
That's
we're
what I
gonna vote
told
on
my
it.
turnaround.
Let me back it up again.
I mean, honestly, so yeah, we're doing goals now. We've been trying to do goals for a year.
Okay, but this is a separate conversation.
Yeah, so the goals that we're doing right now are not related to the evaluation that the aggregate is attached to. There were no goals attached to that. The goals that we're doing right now literally started
We're just pulling them out of,
FY '23.
we're just
So
pulling them out
from
of
last July
common.
until his next
Okay.
performance review.
All right. I'm fine. Just take out that aggregate review is incomplete.
No.
Because,
I'm not going to take that, I don't want to take that out because it's not, because it is incomplete, because we didn't have goals to review him on.
so we're reviewing him now on goals.
We're not reviewing him now.
We're setting goals just.
We reviewed him in
What are the goals
2021.
we're setting him on now?
We can discuss that after we decide on
The
finalizing
sheet,
his
your
review.
goals, Cindy, are on the sheet, the ones that you wrote.
So are we just going to approve goals or not?
We can approve goals, but can we first please approve his review from 2021? I'm only talking about his review from 2021. The goals that you're looking at here have nothing to do with his review
So
from
what's the motion
from
for the-
2021.
What's the motion?
To approve the aggregate review with the sentences I added on the first sheet.
if we talk about that a little, I would say that the select board recognizes, well, the select board's aggregate review is complete.
It is complete.
It is
Okay.
complete. It's, however, you're missing the goal, due to the fact that did not set goals.
How about recognizes that this review is incomplete? Okay?
But because you guys obviously scored, so the aggregate is complete,
Right.
right? So but because goals weren't set, this document basically.
The review process was incomplete.
That is.
It really serves no
So
purpose.
take the word aggregate out of that paragraph. I'm fine with that.
Just say the review process is
The
incomplete.
review process was incomplete.
Perfect.
Okay, good. There we go. So can we vote on that?
Due to the no goals.
I don't know.
So can we move that the aggregate plus the paragraph that I've included in the handout should be submitted as Anthony's performance review from 2021?
Can I read that, just so that when Sue does the minutes?
Yes, please.
Just to be clear, we're not we're talking on this first page, only the last
Bottom
paragraph.
Only the last
Everything above
paragraph.
that is the goals.
That's correct.
Coupled
legal.
potentially
Just-
with Cindy's goals, and then,
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
all right, so move that we accept the review,
The aggregate.
the aggregate review, and the Littleton Select Board recognizes that this review process is incomplete, missing performance objectives, which should account for 2/3 of the review score. As a result, the scores included represent measurements of specific areas for growth or achievement, but do not represent an overall performance score for Anthony.
Second.
Motion made by Chuck, seconded by Mark. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 All opposed? Okay, the
Now
motion
the
carries 5-0.
conversation
I
is
almost
about
want to
goals.
abstain, but I.
Now let's
I had
discuss
nothing
the
to do with it.
goals for the next 6 months. I believe that the goals that you suggested, Cindy, are, and I'm looking for the standards for the goals, to make them identifies performance measures to determine whether each objective is accomplished, specifies the target date. So what the employee plans to accomplish, identify performance measures, and specifies a target date. So when I created my goals, I attempted to do that.
Read that again.
Yes,
Is it in there?
it is.
Okay, I got it.
Yeah, you got it?
Any comments, Anthony?
The employee and the evaluator will jointly develop 5 performance objectives. Care should be taken that each objective states that what the employee plans to accomplish, identifies 1 or more performance measures to determine whether each objective is accomplished, and specifies the target date. So when we discussed your goals earlier, I felt as though they did not meet some of those criteria. For example, ensuring that a request from a select board member to add an item to the agenda is fulfilled within 2 meetings. Is totally acceptable. keeping the board informed to provide monthly updates about projects brought forth, like the senior center. It's not, I guess, I don't feel that it's specific. It doesn't have a target date to complete. It's just like an ongoing request for a work product. So when I wrote mine, I tried to make them specific to, I mean, I have weekly update as well. The organizational chart is one that is very specific. So,
So I guess I think we're on the same page as
Okay.
far as the senior center project, like just giving us regular updates about that, I guess, until the project's completed.
Drumbeat.
yes.
So,
Now is that through Anthony, or that can be a representative of that?
I mean, I think it can be
PWC, or
a
it could
combination
be-
of anything. I mean,
Well, it's
either,
mentioned in my weekly updates. Now
Yeah.
granted, last week, because I already put in 100 hours last week, I wasn't able to do Friday. So there's going to be weeks where I don't, and that's fine. You can.
Well, this is monthly
I
update.
understand,
Yeah,
but
it's
if I'm doing it
monthly.
weekly, to add another monthly, that's going to take another.
No, no,
day.
no,
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 Schedule.
no, no, no.
Don't,
But every 2 weeks, we have a senior center meeting. We're having one Thursday, you would get an update on what we decide. And Mark's there too. So I think that there's two phases, right? I'm going to update you, and then the select board, during your select board update, certainly Mark can add to anything that I may have missed.
Right, so if you're giving us weekly I mean, I think that falls under, it's just to make sure that we stay
You get an
informed
update,
about the
right.
project.
Weekly, monthly, I'm
That's
just
all.
saying, that's all. I
Yeah.
don't want to be committed to doing another report.
No, and that's not what it means at all, but I think.
you're
too-
meeting the requirement by doing this.
You're
Okay,
already,
that's fine.
yeah,
Fine. Yep.
exactly, and I think on top of that, though, which doesn't need to be put in writing, but also like having like a presentation to us, like showing us new designs or something, whenever that becomes
Like if
available.
LLB
And we
came
can
to the-
request that,
yeah.
yeah, exactly, so,
And the other one that you and I have in common is a consistent weekly update, which, I understand that it's not always feasible for you to do it, but it feels to me like that's almost, I don't know, it's almost one of the most important things that I
it's-
want to get from you.
and you
Right.
and you
Sometimes if
already,
you notice, I put 2 weeks together
Yeah.
because, it
Right.
just, like, when I was alone all summer and I didn't have an assistant, that was a struggle to even get the agenda together. So, I recognize that there's periods of time when that didn't happen this year. Now I'm trying to make sure that since Ryan's been aboard, that we're covering it. And I would agree with that, right? I have
Yeah.
no problem providing those. Sometimes they just be delayed, so I don't have a problem with
All
that.
right, let's combine your 4 and 1 into one,
yeah, exactly.
My 4 and Cindy's 1.
or the 4 and 1 on
Yeah.
Cindy's
Oh,
can be the same.
okay.
It's really,
Yeah, it's basically the same thing, and then that can combine with Matthew's 3,
yeah.
because it's all about the senior center.
And
so
my
that-
4 is the weekly update.
Yeah,
Yes?
So I was just going to say that, yeah, your 1 through 4 align with Cindy's, other than her number 5, which I think you can just be, create a departmental org chart, right? And just leave that as, you don't have to say much more than that, right?
right.
I want to make sure
Oh,
that,
well, I wanted to put in the time frame just so that, since Matthew was saying that we should
Well,
like
it's-
set a
worst
goal.
is-
Specific, measurable, yeah.
We're specific,
Well, it's
measurable.
it's an org chart and it's this review cycle, so you can put in a date if you want it before his,
To be updated, what, biannually?
no, I mean,
No.
he has to create, it's part of this year's review, so therefore it's a goal for this year. So-
Yeah.
So
So
you don't
that's-
have
that's
to
the-
actually say that he has to have it done by June 30th, it's already implied. right?
Okay,
So if you want it earlier than that, you can say by
yeah,
I see what
no.
you're saying.
it's just
December
as long as it's-
15th, but,
Right,
and I fully support that goal, by the way.
It's good for new members especially. Like I could have definitely,
Okay.
well, I think especially since we're going through the budget process and we're talking about positions and moving
Well,
people
yeah,
around. and-
as we've been going through this whole process with Park and Rec, I was sitting here thinking, it would be really nice to know who's on
We had
what.
that, yeah.
For each job, each person, what their grade and step is, and you can start going through
Who
some
else
of
is
that
a grade
too.
13, yeah.
So.
okay.
and
So
there-
how many is that?
So if
what
you
do we-
took Matthew's 4 and added, create the org chart,
This one
that's
for
5.
5 on the review.
Okay.
Well,
Yes?
may I ask Anthony a question?
You may.
Is there a goal that you feel we're missing? Is this something that you think you work on, that it should be a goal that
especially if it's like a project or a sort of something that's outside of what would be in your job description that you.
There's a lot of things, you know. We come to work expecting to do one thing, and all of a sudden, we totally have to put out 6 different fires. And while those are not goals, because we really don't know, you know, the achievements should be recognized, and that's all I'd ask.
So, yeah, okay, so those are just not things that are measurable, though, as goals, so.
But it can be spoken to at the end of the assessment, at the end of the year.
Yeah.
We can speak to.
That can be part of the aggregates
Yeah.
portion as opposed to the goal portion.
Well, I think it would help if those were included in the weekly updates too, so we knew. I mean, is it the sort of thing
So, I mean,
that,
just for instance, you know, you got emails about that tree issue and working with John Mangiarotti and Jim Mangiarotti's the acting town manager and trying to resolve that with, you know, for a house that only about this much is in Littleton, right? But that little piece of that property took
Pulled us in.
Yeah, it took a lot of time.
took a lot of time to work on. There was, last week, I had another situation which, the gentleman, what was his,
The dam issue on.
the dam,
Lake.
you know, yeah, on Gilson?
No cursing.
Yeah, easy.
Yeah, so there's a dam, there's a beaver dam, and it's backing up and it's flooding into his property, and we worked and resolved that. You know, there's a lot of things that we just get stuff done. As people have problems in this community, you know, we do it, and yeah, well, it'd be great to tell you, it's just, the report itself on a Friday is time consuming.
Right.
You know, it takes, I don't have a straight hour of any day to sit down and really focus, right? That's why I'm here till 8, 9 o'clock, and I welcome anybody to drive by at night and see my car. It's just,
You should
there's only
probably-
so much time.
yeah, and I don't want to
that I
add
have.
work to you, but I also don't want you to get shortchanged when it comes to your review, and you're saying, well, I worked 60 hours and I did 10 things, but I don't remember what they were because it's all a
You should
blur.
just keep track of it.
So, because we're publicly traded and everything now, I'm doing the same thing. Every Friday, I have to have a report in. So I have a spreadsheet. And this afternoon, at the end of the day, it was supposed to be on a Zoom meeting or Teams meeting. It was on, but I was filling out the spreadsheet and putting in some notes so that when it comes to Friday, I'm not gonna remember the phone call that I made at 9 o'clock this morning. So that'd be one thing that I'd recommend is that whether it's a spreadsheet or a Word doc or a notes or whatever it happens to be, just start,
Well, it's an I love me file is what it is. I mean,
I love me.
it's an I love me file. You're creating this, and then at the end of the year, and I have to do it as a federal employee, at the end of the year, you're creating give me all of your accomplishments, basically, that you want added.
Yeah, no,
So you can we can address it and put it into your evaluation on top of all of these things we assessed him on.
Yeah.
He also did this.
And like, what I hear from this whole board is, like, I'm gonna speak for myself. I would almost rather that you spend a bit more time giving us information about these things. It sounds terrible, even if you have to not do something else, because first of all, you're the only, you're the eyes you're the only way that we get this kind of information from town hall. Like, you are the conduit of all the information, and it's the most important thing that we need is to understand what's going on. And also, I want to be able to acknowledge the work that you do. And it feels like,
I don't agree with that.
Oh?
No, well, just because I have to fill out these things every week, and I do it because I have to. But I think the stuff that we should get is the stuff that we could potentially get a phone call from somebody on Newtown Road and say, hey, what's going on with that tree? And if we just had a blurb on Saturday from Anthony saying we had this situation, the stuff that he potentially thinks is going to fall down to us, that's the stuff I want to know. Obviously, the big rocks, if you will, right? The senior center, this happened. Met with
that's on here.
Met with the fire chief and talked about budget, had a great conversation. There's going to be an ambulance, whatever. Just some of those big rocks, I think, absolutely should be on there. But as far as I'm not going to call it minutia because it's important to the person that's calling to report it to you guys, but it's not necessarily stuff that we need to get involved with. There's a reason they're calling the town administrator's office and not calling any one of us or all of us.
Right.
So,
Okay. Well, even like with
That's-
that tree issue, because I was watching the email thread, and I got to the point where I'm like, is somebody responding? Like, I felt like a lot of it was coming from their side, And I knew that a response was happening.
That's active
But I
as
just
well.
didn't see us responding back,
Hmm.
saying, yeah, we're working on this, or
Okay.
or whatever.
Because we go right out to the field and we address people's concerns.
So-
That's how we do things. We don't just talk, we act and we react. So
Which-
Steve Witten and Steve Yonley were both at that gentleman's house, right?
Which
And
I
that's the-
have no doubt that that happened. That's
We
not
have no
my
way of
point
knowing
of
that,
bringing that up. I'm just saying that it just didn't filter to our end.
Because I knew that Acton went out there because Acton Select Board Chair, Dean Charter, said, I went out there and I would punt this to the Littleton Select Board or the town official. I mean, that's literally what he said.
Right.
That's the information that I got on it. Once I saw that, I knew you were working on it. But
Yeah, but
I didn't know anything after that.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah.
So,
Which was obviously a huge deal because it was a 27-page
email thread.
email
That's
thread.
insane. So I'll defer to you. Do what you do as much as you can.
We'll do
as
what we
much as
can
Give
without-
give us as much information as you can, I guess.
I don't want to sacrifice progress
That's
for
fine. Okay,
minutia.
that's fine.
Yeah, that's, yeah.
Okay, so let's, can we please put this to bed?
So moved.
So we are stating my 4 plus, basically my 4 plus Cindy's 5.
All right, do you guys have a copy to get to Sue? or-
No, I'm sure Matthew's going to email us
Yeah.
that.
Why
What
would
about
I-
the tennis courts? Or that's,
I think they're still in, well,
it's still in play.
A, they're still an issue, and even if they're not, he already did it. So it's just a goal
It is kind of retroactive to June.
Well, now it's going to entail CPC and other things.
But again.
You already did it.
So
We
you're-
already addressed it,
I
but it didn't address it the way we want. New things happen. Now we have to pivot and switch, and we got to come up with a new plan.
But that's
and-
okay, it's part of it, and
Right.
that can be discussed and
I do
deliberated.
feel like it's only fair to add that, given that you have addressed it since we wrote these goals, so.
Okay, so you're 4
I
plus
will-
my 5.
Yes, and shall I circulate it before we officially vote on them?
No.
I think we can vote on it.
Okay.
Is it a total of 9?
5, no, 4.
No,
So
we're
it's
consolidating.
merged,
Yeah,
okay.
they were very-
Just the way you just said it.
Yeah.
like,
Matthew's
Yeah.
4 plus
five,
her
okay,
number
right.
5.
And I will distribute them. Okay.
All right, so.
Do we
move-
need a motion?
Let's do it.
Okay.
Move the select board vote to approve the 5 goals for Anthony Ansaldi.
As distributed by me.
Distributed by the chair.
Okay.
Second.
Motion made by Chuck, seconded by Mark. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you all very much.
6-0 vote. George voted.
George,
Thanks, George.
George, you are not a voting member of this board.
Yeah.
Okay. Drone bylaw.
Oh, God.
Oh, I need a pen. I'm doing mine in pencil.
Mr. Wilson, you want to do the drone bylaw? Talk about that?
Oh, sure. Since
That's
my name's
next.
up. I guess we saw, I don't know, those on social media or one of our farms in town had a drone that was over their farm. Didn't know whose it was at the time, but I don't want to get into too many of the details of that. So it spurred a few conversations with local police. What's the law on this? I dug into mass law. I know a few other members probably did. I went into FAA, dug into some of that discussion. Lo and behold, a lot of this, it gets created by the local community on the bylaw. So yeah, the FAA controls down to what, 400 feet?
400 feet.
Anything under that, you do have some state guidance on it, on where these drones can take off and where they can land. Absolutely, on people's property, they would be trespassing. But as far as sitting there and hovering over someone's property, sure, we can get into the rule that states, you have to get permission to film somebody. Well, typically these things are filming or taking pictures, so that would be something maybe you could, if they were doing that and invading privacy inside someone's window. But if it's just an overhead flight, we need to create a bylaw for this town, and it's a technology that obviously is new. We didn't have to worry about it 10 years ago.
Yeah.
We need a bylaw that kind of addresses it, what FAA can't and what the state hasn't in Mass General Law, and how we're going to address drones, and then pass it by legal and see if it passed muster. I know some other communities have taken a shot at this, in 2 communities, thank you, and I'll let Chuck speak to it a little more, because I know you've done some research.
So Holyoke and Chicopee have passed some bylaws, both of those are cities, so they're ordinances, so they're not bylaws. The town of Newton, the city of Newton, passed something in 2016, but a district court judge overruled it because it was more stringent than what the FAA had put in place, and a municipality can't have a more stringent law, bylaw, ordinance than a federal agency.
So we can't regulate below 400 feet?
We can't be any more stringent than
Yeah.
the FAA will allow us to be.
But
Town council has some concerns about this, that he's going to look into it some more. And he's not quite sure that we can, and I addressed Gary's concerns
Yeah.
with him, and needs to do more research, but he's not quite sure that we can. And even if we could, then there's always that element, and I think this is one of Mark's favorites, right? Who's enforcing it?
Yeah.
And what are we gonna do, right? So now, are we gonna have the police gonna have a chaser drone, and now we gotta send somebody for a pilot and license, and we have to buy it? You know, these are all things that, if we can even do something, we have to be have a way of enforcing it. And I think there's more discussion to be had with town council, and we can certainly invite him to a future meeting to discuss it, and after he gets does some research on this, so we
So
can
from
advise.
from what I've read, the way it gets enforced is someone throws something at a drone that someone's flying, knocks it down, and then there's a lawsuit because you broke my drone.
Personal property.
And no, you were like violating my airspace.
Or
and-
shoots
and
at
that's-
it.
And
Or-
that, yeah, or shoots it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know, the good thing is that's between two parties, that's not the town, right? So, not our problem, in a way,
Well, it
but,
depends what they're shooting it with.
yeah, it's a good
We
point.
could be
Okay,
involved.
but at any rate,
We need to do some more work on this one with town council, and he will get back to us.
Great.
It's pretty hard to even get a
Yeah, if you
license to
can,
play a
Chuck.
drone anymore, I think.
If you can forward what you do have, I think that would be helpful.
And I know the FAA, you shared something, I don't know if it was just with me or the board.
Yeah, it was just you, because you
Yeah.
brought it up.
Yeah, so it did, the FAA has updated some of their stuff on the drones, because they're recognizing a lot of the things that weren't addressed in their original, some of their original policy, so, yeah, I said to the owner of the property, I would definitely speak to it, so I think it's something, it just dawned on me that we need a policy, something. And if it can't be a whole lot of meat in it, at
Sure,
least
something.
we have a skeleton in our bylaw that states we have a drone policy and we can add to it at a later date as we get.
So there are policies though, like whether you're allowed to fly them in the White Mountains and things like
Sure.
that, so.
Oh, over government property,
There's regional
whole
stuff,
whole
yeah, 'cause
different
Cape
ballgame.
Cod has a lot on the rail trail, and that's all Army Corps of Engineers stuff. So it's
But
different.
actually, we can, and town council be able to look at that, we can say they can't fly it
Municipal property.
over municipal
Like,
property.
or town forest, for example, or
I don't know. I
roadways.
just know that they did it for public buildings, for,
Start alumni games.
let's
without permission.
let's let town council weigh in on that.
We'll follow up with town council, make sure it's on his radar to report back at a future meeting.
Okay. All right. Funding for King Street, 36 King Street.
You know, so I think that was brought up last time when I wasn't at the meeting, and, so what we're doing is we're going out to do that appraisal, or update the appraisal that was done some 3 years ago, 3 years ago. And, you know, what we're hoping to see is what the appraisal report comes back, and also look at that as two separate parcels, because that's what it really was at one time. So if we can identify, you know, I'll just call it parcel A, which is not the structure, and then parcel B. Parcel A, we could
The old Wickham
use.
homestead.
Yeah, exactly, Chuck. We could use CPC if we designate that as active recreation. So that could be a funding mechanism. Other than that, what we would be looking at doing on this one is borrowing for this, if that's what the board so chooses and moving forward with this, is that we would do a borrowing, and, you know, perhaps even some of the capital, maybe there's even room to put some free cash, that 1.7 towards that. Because, you know, just because we have $9 million of requests, it doesn't mean, you know, on people's third and fourth options, we may want to just hold that back and address what's facing you right now, and that's moving forward with this purchase.
And let's talk about, so this would go on the warrant for the special?
For the special, correct.
So the town And who would present this to the town so that they can make a, I mean, I don't know what the town's feel is on this, I really
I
don't.
have
I have
no
no
idea.
idea.
We could put together a presentation for it, like we did with 550 or the sewer project or anything else, and zoning. We'll put it together and explain it, and if it is gonna be used CPC, then we have to get the CPC, go before the CPC as a project for funding, so, we certainly can do all the presentation for that, with support from the board, and whoever gets that article, whoever is not there that meeting, then we assign article.
But even if we use CPC funds for that parcel, we're going to have to borrow for the building.
Depends what that dollar amount is. I don't know if it's under a certain amount, more than likely.
Yeah, we can't get too cute. because-
Yeah, more than likely, yes, and, what the borrowing could be, we still would talk to our finance team, and whether that's, is that something we want to do, a ban for a number of years and try to pay it off in free cash and allocate certain amount of money. I don't know, it's more to be, until we have that dollar amount that we know how much the cost of it is, that's the direction we're looking at.
That's the thing I want to see is the financial piece to that, on how we're going to do it, so we can educate the public, and then, secondly, a little bit of exactly how we're going to use it, and then obviously speaking to if the town doesn't purchase that property, there's probably a 90% chance a nonprofit.
Probably higher than that, Gary, you're right, yeah.
Correct, yeah, moves into that facility, so we don't gain the tax benefit.
Right, we get no tax benefit, right.
You do have a.
Yes, Mr. Sanders?
Joe Sanders, 6 Great Road. Mr. Chairman, what would the building be used for? I think that's the first thing that you need to tell the citizen why you want to acquire this building. I think that's critical that you tell us why before you talk about spending money.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Great, okay. Timeline for a special town meeting?
Ryan will go through that because I'm hoarse, and we invited the town moderator who still has some free time now that he's
Past his bedtime, though.
There's a lot of equine references in this meeting tonight, it seems.
There is, yes,
Just to say,
yes.
So, okay. So, just to present to you a draft thought process of what we could do with a special town meeting. Just talked about the potential purchase of 36 King Street. What we would be proposing to do would be to open the warrant at your next meeting, which is scheduled for Monday, December 19th. Extend that through your next meeting, which is Monday, January 9th. We then propose to close the select board meeting at that time. Then have a pretty quick turnaround to basically get this to the printer. It's about, typically it's 10 days, but in this case, it's sort of an off period for the printer. They aren't doing as much work, so they think they can do it in an expedited manner. And then the hope would be that we would be able to get this to the post office on Thursday, January 19th for mailing either Friday or no later than Saturday, January 21st. And then the proposal to the select board would be that we would hold the special town meeting on Tuesday, February 7th at 7 p.m. One thing we've found that having meetings on Tuesdays is particularly helpful for the setup. It gives us a whole day of setup at the school, and LCTV, Mark in particular, has found it to be very helpful. So where with specials, we can kind of have those pretty much on any day of the week versus the annual where it's specified in the bylaw that that's the first Monday in May. So in this case, the first Monday in May is May 1st, so as early as it can be. So this is just a perspective schedule for you, and we've already put a call into the schools. They are setting the room aside for us, the gym, I should say. And these are the list also we have here, 6 prospective warrant articles which would be paying the bills of prior years, maybe a few small items there. Potential CPC funding, Anthony mentioned that we may be looking for some CPC funding for the purchase of the, I think it was parcel 2.1 of the parcel that we looked at earlier up on the screen. Purchase 36 King Street, the firearms business zoning bylaw, which we've been having a lot of conversations about, to potentially the 410 Great Road Master Plan Development, Aquifer and Water Resource District, and sidewalk curb cuts permits. This is the mill building. And finally, to rescind the Parks and Recreation Community Education Enterprise Fund. So that was, if you remember at the special, there was some wrangling that we had to do to close out the fiscal year, and this basically allows us to close out the enterprise fund permanently.
So the 19th would be the only meeting that we have to discuss the warrant and add items to it.
To insert articles, you could discuss it right up to the town meeting.
Right, but to insert articles, because it closes after before our next meeting.
Correct.
I know we're in our budget cycle. We're going to be doing a lot of meetings too, but I mean, to Mr. Sanders' point, to some degree, we should be speaking about this at every one of our meetings, because there's some very important things, and if we have, 130 people show up to a special, you're making some huge decisions here. So I think this has, get it out on cable, get it, whatever we got to do.
Should we
It's not
have it on
normal
a
stuff.
Saturday?
I mean,
I don't know,
I mean-
the Saturday one was not any better attended than the weeknight one.
I know.
as I
It's middle of
recall.
winter.
I mean, honestly, we get so much pushback because we always have town meeting during the week.
Yeah, but I mean,
I'm like, if we're calling a special, do we want to try to have it on a Saturday?
I mean,
I'm in a tropical island on February 7th. I'm just letting you know.
Cindy, part of the reason we even pushed them to a Tuesday was that what we were hearing was the basketball program utilizes that, and when we even have a town meeting on a Monday,
Yeah.
we have to go in over the weekend. So basically, for that town meeting, we have to shut down the use of the middle school gym so we can get that set up. So
Okay.
that's a reason we even pushed it Tuesday,
Yeah.
less impact on the kids. But to your point, you could do it any day of the week.
Right.
But that would definitely affect
The setup
the
is why.
recreation. Yeah, it's the setup and the breakdown, that's.
And that's not school vacation week, right?
There is a high
No,
school
it's-
basketball
No,
game that
no,
night,
we
but it's not
consciously
high school.
wanted to stay away from that
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
that very reason.
I'm just thinking the residents always give us pushback. This might be a good test to say, let's do it on Saturday, but maybe it won't make a difference.
Tim, do you have any comments? Any questions?
I guess, well, looking at the potential list of for February 7th, because it happens, I'm available. So, we can't see any conflict. But, that being said, it sounds like it's a long way away. It's really not. And this is a significant acquisition by the town. I hope that there's the time to mount to an aggressive outreach campaign to the voters, because you kind of hate to see something come out sort of off schedule in the middle of winter and not get the support it might deserve to get at an annual town meeting. I mean, is it a time-sensitive situation?
It is.
It is. It's incumbent to sort of sell it to
the seller, yeah.
the public, yeah.
I guess how confident are you that King Street is going to be ready for us to, are we going to have a funding options in place by the 19th?
And usage options.
And usage options, yeah. I mean,
We can pose something for the next meeting for the board to discuss. So what we
have the square footage. We have the square footage of this building over here. What's it? Leaving the house.
but we don't necessarily know what it's going to cost to renovate if we need to renovate things.
Well, we know it's going to be millions cheaper than purchasing a facility, right?
A building.
Building a
Building,
facility,
yeah.
I should say.
Yeah.
I mean,
it depends on the use. Anything with, and Ed would tell you that if you see it, depending on the use, that drives what building code we have to satisfy. So, when it was a senior center, we had to do a lot more different work because there was a different use and there's different codes that we have to comply with, which meant a lot more work. You know, for instance, if we would use the first floor as Park and Rec as is, there's really not that much work. Now, we still would probably want to look at tightening the building up and making some kind of, I don't want to say neglected, but have not put as much.
Under-maintained.
Thank you. They've under-maintained that property, both inside and out, and like anything, if you have a property that you don't use, it really starts deteriorating faster when there's nobody using it. So there's something that we would probably have to do. I don't know if it would be significant right off the bat if we would just start, say, with Park and Rec utilizing that. Because another thing that you're going to come up, which kind of plays into this, is we're going to talk about that RFI again in January. I know that Matthew and I have had that conversation, and other board members have mentioned, you know, we're going to talk about that again and see, you know, in the RFI I'm referring to is the use of, I can't say this building because we're not, but the town hall for senior affordable housing. And what were those proposals? And let's look at those again. And do you want to bring the people in and just hear what they have to say? And you know, that plays into, well, now we have a space issue, right? We need to look for homes for various places, and how do we achieve that? So that all comes into play. So I think it might be incremental on the use of that building, but certainly there's options that, I don't know if you'll define everything, but certainly I think Park and Rec's probably a great first step, and that's just my opinion. But of course, it's up to the board to decide. More important, your opinion. And
well, it is an enormous amount of space in there in comparison to Park and Rec. I mean, so obviously.
No, that hall can be used not just for Park and Rec. It can be used on the weekends. You know, we could do, you know, maybe the cultural council could use that. We could host different plays and so forth in there, you know, and different artist events and so forth, which we currently don't have. We're running out of space even at Shattuck Street, so.
I'm just worried we don't know what we don't know, and this is really rushing a large purchase, which makes me very uneasy. I guess we can always not do it. I mean, we can withdraw the article on February 6th, but I don't feel like 2 weeks is going to be enough for us to have any significant answers to a lot of like fundamental questions about the whole process.
They're not building any more buildings next to municipal properties, so I think it'd be a lost opportunity.
Well, so I acknowledge,
we didn't at least bring
right?
it to the residents and say, you know, maybe it'll be a preschool, maybe it'll be Park and Rec, maybe it'll be the school department.
There's a massive buildable lot, too.
It's contiguous to the high school. For us to not go after something for $4.2 million that would cost us, as we can see what we're going to pay for on the tennis courts.
Yeah.
You know,
right, there's a uniqueness to that because it abuts the school.
Lost opportunity. You know, just, I think we just need to do that presentation, let the residents determine whether or not we should buy it, at least from a prospecting standpoint. I mean, if from a business perspective, if I own that building, I'd look very hard at how I could procure that building for future expansion or whatever.
Yeah. I just don't think that we're going to have all the answers on the use. I think that we can give you something, for instance, but, there's a fly in here, I'm sorry.
Yeah, see?
So just keep that in mind. You know, we're probably going to recommend something, but.
Okay.
I would ask anytime we speak to this, because we know we're going to be jointly with FinCom, make sure they're brought in on this.
Sure.
With the same discussions with us or them separately, because they definitely will have some opinion.
Yeah, I plan on attending their meeting tomorrow, Gary, so I'll definitely bring this up and just have a discussion about it.
To switch gears slightly, do we think the firearms bylaw is going to be ready by the 10th, the 9th? They're meeting, well, no, they have to be ready
by the
before they go to
19th.
printer. No.
So I think that they're going to review, and they've made some revisions, and I expect some good spirited discussions on Wednesday.
It's really just
next meeting after Wednesday night, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. I think, and then, you know, other minor, you know, kind of minor things. Somebody, I think, Matthew, you brought up the rock climbing. But, you know, question is, do they start looking at individuals like the rock climbing? What's different from the rock climbing really to O'Neill Cinemas where children congregate, right? And then what about, you know, if they open up a candy store at the point? You know, at what point do we say, you know, we don't have to be that specific? To the point where all of a sudden we're specific and somebody says, well, if you bring up the rock climbing gym, what about, you know, something else? And all of a sudden, we start making that really more difficult to allow firearm dealers to do that.
If
You
you
can't
restrict
do
it,
that,
they can do
right?
it by right.
Right, you can't do that. So I think those are some of the discussions where, at some point, I'll use Chuck's term again, they have to pump the brakes as far as specifically saying different things. Again, that's just my opinion.
No, I think it's a big problem with the current proposal, which is, we don't know, based on the map that was provided, where those people can actually have gun laws, because we haven't clearly identified all the sensitive receivers, or whatever those areas are called.
I think the map that Nancy Glenn Cross worked on with Maren and our consultants that we utilized to come up with a clearer map, I think answers some of that questions, and you'll see that Wednesday, and I think I forwarded off that map to you guys.
That was the one that did have the point available, though. Which, and my comment on that was, what about the rock gym? That was one that was specifically identified as a sensitive receiver, so that the point would not be available.
Well, so I think that's what we were internally talking about, as, was that used as an example, or we using that as a specific?
I guess that probably needs to be decided before
they
we
need to
agree on a distance.
Yeah, they need to decide that, right? The planning board needs to just have that discussion, look at the maps, and then come up with something. Can they make changes right up to town meeting? Yes, that's just, you know, means that we have to do a handout, and we have to do a lot more work to get ready for town meeting, but it is what it is.
At least look out their window and see that.
Yeah, I think they're gonna approve something, I think they're gonna approve something on Wednesday night.
Mr. Sanders, you want a very brief comment, please? Yeah. It's getting late. I'm almost ready for bed.
George Sanders, 672 Great Road. My concern about 36 King Street is that I think one thing that you need to consider is that, you know, we have the school department, and they're in this building here. Of all the buildings that we build, you know, the school department has still been this little cubby hole where they at in Shattuck Street here. So if you're going to put Park and Rec over there, which would increase their space tremendously, and I think that, you know, you could put the school department in there. At least talk about two elements.
Yep.
And I think that it would be good to have Mr. Ghost and Anthony come on television, on LCT television, and do the same thing that they did for early voting, how Diane did for early voting, and gave information and so forth. I think if the two of you did that, you could, they showed that constantly, all the time. People will see that, and the word will get out as to what's going on. Since we have no newspapers here, so I think that would be a good avenue to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, George.
Okay.
So we might need somebody to offset the two heads, somebody with hair. Maybe we'll use Tim. It's doing great.
Just the glare alone.
All right. Can we move on? Are we ready to move on? No, I mean, seriously, is there more to discuss on the town meeting schedule, or?
No, unless there's other questions.
So my only question is, what happens if the firearms bylaw takes longer than we're expecting? Are we giving them a drop dead date of when they have to have it done by so that we can do this?
We'll discuss it on the 19th. How's that?
I mean,
See how that-
that article is literally driving this special.
Yes.
Right.
And
Okay,
if
so that's the-
it's, we might be coming back on the 19th saying, all right, well, now we're pushing to this date.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, just whatever the proposal is under this bylaw, I hope that there's a way to get information out to people on what it's intended to do, you know, what it can do, what it can't do. Because I see some people, I think, are looking for a solution that is beyond the means of the bylaw to reach. And we've seen recent town meetings, we've seen people come, you know, and they go away disappointed when they realize that, you know, that it's not in the right form, or this proposal's not going to do what I think it's going to do. So I don't think we want to create any more frustration with voters. If they, you know, if the information's out, this is what this can do, and it can't do all these other wonderful things that we want it to do. It's for this purpose. you know, that's the only thing I would.
Yeah, at least we know this one is is properly formatted as per town council. But you're right, we do need to make sure that the people who vote on it understand we cannot remove the existing gun dealers from their by right
Precisely,
presence.
right.
However, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Now, moving on, contract process for MassWorks grants?
Okay, so, you know, we've been awarded a $1.5 million MassWorks grant. We've also been awarded an $8 million earmark, which was funded as part of the economic development bill. And we've sat here before we submitted the original grant application, debating about how we're splitting that money up with, you know, sewer and what would be used for the infrastructure work for 550 King Street. I think that maybe a subset, and Matthew and Chuck have kind of been representatives from the select board with sewer, and maybe, you know, we have a meeting with a couple of commissioners and and maybe with the Lapoli companies and hammer out agreement, because we have to start completing paperwork. So we have to get in the room and have that discussion, then report it back at a select board meeting, at a public meeting, and talk about what happened. But, and I don't see a benefit of doing that in a meeting of this setting, because I think a lot of technical stuff has to be discussed. So it's just my recommendation that perhaps Chuck, you and Matthew, you know, and I'll certainly be part of it, and we'll set up a meeting and really start discussing that, because we don't want to miss the opportunities, and we have to start completing some of the packet like I had, the forms like I had in your packet.
Okay. I'm fine
Sound
with
like a
that.
plan, or?
I don't know if any other board members have any problem with that or really want to be involved.
This is such a critical thing for the town. Those two in a room together with you guys end up being mediators to some degree.
Yeah, to some degree.
That's true.
Yeah.
I just like that Anthony's volunteering me for something, Mr. Sanders volunteered me for something.
I can volunteer you for something if you want. All right, good. I think that's a good plan. Let's do it.
Okay, so I'll circulate an email with Nick, and we'll get
Great.
something on a schedule that works.
My only request is that we have more updates about what's going on with the sewer project, because it's been crickets from what I know what's going on. So
It's been crickets to some extent from their side, I think. That's part of the reason that we don't update you. Right.
I can't give you information that
you don't have,
that
yeah.
we don't,
Yeah.
that we don't get. It's not, you know, the water department, water sewer department working in, I know.
There's really nothing for them to, I mean, other than, you know, they're going to be breaking ground on the treatment facility. And
Well, what's
Yeah,
the
well,
deal with
they're still, to my
what's the
knowledge-
status of the bid, though? Like,
Well,
you know,
to my knowledge, they're still waiting for the DEP permit to be approved. You know, in the meantime, you know, they're ready, to my understanding, that they're ready to issue the RFP and get that out in the street, but they kind of have to wait for DEP approval, or what the permit's gonna be. I don't know the status, and I'm sure if they had something, Nick is really, really good with keeping me updated and sending over the information. But, you know, I can have that conversation with him and see where it stands. But in the meantime, they're still working on little things, you know, little things being, you know, we're talking about 31 Shattuck Street, right? And we're preparing for a June groundbreaking for the senior center. And with that, that means, you know, probably be coming back to the board in December talking about, we have to give notification to the tenant at 31 Shattuck Street that he needs to vacate by a certain point, because that system is going to be decommissioned during the construction process until we tie it into our municipal system. In the meantime, as a cost-saving measure, we discussed utilizing 31 Shattuck Street as the construction. Instead of having to rent the trailer, we have a building that's right there. We just need to drop a porta potty, which they would do anyways. So that saves us a little on cost of the building that we own, and it's great because while that tenant was to move out, we'd have people in there all day, you know, utilizing the place through construction. And then when it's hooked up, you know, and the building's built, you know, we cut the ribbon and put the for sale sign on 31 Shattuck Street, and we move on.
Okay. Good. All right, meeting schedule.
Brian will take this to him. My throat's dry.
Okay. With the, believe it or not, the end of the year, right around the corner, we put together a draft agenda or schedule for you through June or the remainder of our fiscal year. So the holidays are in red. February 7th, we just talked about as a tentative date for the special town meeting. We also mentioned May 1st, which is per our bylaw, our town meeting takes place on the first Monday in May, and that's May Day this year. So, so this is the prospective meetings, I should say. We tried to carefully balance this so that we could work around the holidays. As such, the only one in this that where we had to bounce from a Monday to a Tuesday would be June 20th, because Monday is the Juneteenth Independence Day holiday.
Yeah, and keep in mind, this is your regular business meeting. You are going to have more budget meetings,
Yes,
right?
that's
So
what I
if
was
this isn't it, unfortunately, so, you know, you're going to have a lot more.
Yeah,
that you're
where's
gonna-
Saturday? Where's our
See,
Yeah,
the,
it's
see, the
not in
note,
there.
see the note section, right? This is
Oh.
just special town meetings date is tentative, and we know that there's going to be other budget meetings, including the Super Saturday meeting, as you said, Cynthia is going to be on.
And just while I'm thinking, another warrant article for this special, while we're doing it, is, you know, right now, we're committed to the first Monday. And like I just said, that Monday kind of impacts the use of the gym. And we're finding that the Tuesday worked really, really well for our staff, right? Because they were able to set up during the day when they're working and have the gym ready for the next day for town meeting. Maybe at this town meeting, we may propose on the 19th that we amend the bylaw to it's
Tuesday.
Maybe the first week before the election, so that gives you the flexibility to pick Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday if you wanted to. I'm sure we don't want to pick Friday.
Depending on the year, it could change what day works, right?
Right, so it's just something, I think
That's a
that
good idea.
is helpful, so maybe we'll add that to the list of potential warrant articles and not nail us down to a certain date, but give you the flexibility.
Thank you.
Okay.
So again, that's the draft schedule, and again, we just try to put all the holidays on, just to give you a perspective of how we can live it.
Thank
And we like to give this out, so we give LCTV the opportunity to do the scheduling and everybody else with department heads to know when to submit items for the agenda, and it's helpful to everybody.
I mean, I can't think of a reason why we'd change that, like if one of us is going to be absent or
Yeah, I
something.
mean, I know that January 23rd, I'm traveling, but
Yeah.
I wouldn't change the whole schedule just for that.
Lest we can't have a quorum, then, because we all know we're going to be on
Then we have
vacation
to
on the.
pivot, right?
Yeah, right.
For
but-
the most part, this is a blueprint.
Got it.
Move that the board vote to schedule regular meetings as per the January to June 2023 schedule in the packet.
Second.
Motion made by Chuck, seconded by Cindy. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 5-0. All right, minutes for November 21st.
Move the select board vote to approve.
Wait,
the meeting
any
minutes from
comments before you?
November 21st, 2022 meeting.
No comments? Nothing? Everyone good? Okay, sorry.
Move the select board vote to approve the meeting minutes from the November 21st, 2022 meeting.
Second.
Motion made by Chuck, seconded by Mark. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. All right, let's adjourn.
Motion adjourn?
Second.
Motion made by Chuck, seconded by Mark. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned. Thank you, Littleton. Good night.